Chapter 1343, The Ancient Star Sea. Chapter 1343, The Ancient Star Sea. Jian Wushuang's spaceship was flying fast in the dark heaven. I have revised the route to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. You can have a look. King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang started to read the route. 2 routes? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, one is going through the Ancient Star Sea, and the other is bypassing it. King of Venomous Worms explained. What are the differences? A lot. The Ancient Star Sea is a dangerous place in the eternal chaotic world. Though it is nothing for those almighty, it poses a big risk to universe gods. King of Venomous Worms explained. In the Ancient Star Sea, there are not only natural crises, but also many exotic beasts that are hostile to human cultivators. They may hurt you. Therefore, the first choice is full of risks of death, but it's also time efficient. It will take less than 2,000 years to get there. And the second choice is safer, but it takes more time. How much time does the second option take? Jian Wushuang asked. It's hard to predict. Maybe 30,000 years. King of Venomous Worms answered. 30,000 years? Jian Wushuang was surprised. He had cultivated for less than 10,000 years. As he was unwilling to waste 30,000 years on the journey, he chose to go through the Ancient Star Sea. I guessed you would choose the first one. I was right. King of Venomous Worms smiled. So, before getting to the Ancient Star Sea, you should try your best to improve your skills and power. The stronger you are, the more possibility you will have of surviving. I know. Jian Wushuang nodded. And he soon started to cultivate. He had just left the snow-sacred land with his spaceship, and it would take at least 100 years for him to arrive at the margin of the Ancient Star Sea. It was long enough for him. I have just created the advanced rank 2 unique skill. With the accumulation of swordsmanship, I could definitely create more powerful unique skills. Jian Wushuang was confident. I will spend these 100 years on improving my unique skills. Jian Wushuang was quite determined. The journey in the dark heaven was boring, through which Jian Wushuang used all his time to cultivate. And the 110 years passed soon. Jian Wushuang, you are now close to the Ancient Star Sea. Don't get to the sea alone or you will die. King of Venomous Worms said, go to the land 6 first. So Jian Wushuang followed the suggestion of King of Venomous Worms and drove his spaceship to a floating land 6. The land 6 was small. It was not a universe, but a station for human cultivators. Jian Wushuang now stood on the land 6. Many geniuses from different universes or kingdoms came to the land 6. They were all mighty talents. And Jian Wushuang, as a universe god, seemed trivial. Are they all coming for the Ancient Star Sea? Jian Wushuang murmured. Of course, some talents go there to cultivate, some go through the sea as a time-efficient way to go to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. King of Venomous Worms said. They often team up to get through the Ancient Star Sea, which increases the possibility of success. Team up. Jian Wushuang was interested. There are many teams of cultivators who are going to the Ancient Star Sea. You can choose one and go to the sea with other universe gods. I think many teams would welcome you since you are a peak universe god in the first heaven. King of Venomous Worms suggested to Jian Wushuang. Okay, I will have a try. Jian Wushuang started to find teams to get through the Ancient Star Sea. Soon he received an invitation and joined a large team with around 100 cultivators. The cultivators in the team were at least universe gods in the first heaven. 3 days later, at the margin of the heaven, a huge, ancient spaceship was ready to depart. Be prepared, guys. We are departing in an hour. The person who was talking was an elderly god with a green robe. His breath was full of power. Apparently, he was a universe god in the 3rd heaven. Jian Wushuang was one member of the team. He knew that the elderly god was named Yushan, and that he was the leader of the team. The team was made up of 140 cultivators. Among them, there were 3 universe gods in the 3rd heaven, 20 in the 2nd heaven, and the rest were all in the 1st heaven. 1 hour passed. The ancient spaceship departed in the direction of the ancient star sea. Jian Wushuang sat at the deck of the spaceship, ignoring other talents nearby, some of whom were chatting and some were cultivating. Huh. Jian Wushuang raised his head and found a boy. The boy was around 12 years old. He was staring curiously at a bald man in front of him. Chapter 1344, Duan Lingfeng. Chapter 1344, Duan Lingfeng. On the bald man's face, there was a strange pattern while the youth was obviously staring at that pattern. The bald man who was cultivating seemed to notice the youth, and he opened his eyes to glare at the youth with his cold stare. The rage in his eyes terrified the youth as the youth moved backwards. Then, there was a lady in red who walked forward and embraced the youth as she apologized. "I'm sorry, my brother didn't intend to disturb your cultivation." "Universe Master?" The bald man stole a glance at the lady in red and there was a stroke of coldness on his face. Who brought the two Universe Masters on board? Doesn't he know how dangerous the ancient star sea is? How could he bring two Universe Masters to drag us down? The bald man was very loud and everyone on the deck stared. When they saw the lady in red and the strong, honest youth, their facial expressions changed. They could tell that the lady in red was merely a Universe Master while the strong honey youth was just an 11-year-old kid who had only just started cultivation. There was not much power, to begin with. They were going to go through the ancient star sea, which would be very dangerous. Hence, the threshold to join the troop was to be a universe god in the first heaven. But the lady in red and the youth were obviously just universe masters. How could they join the troop? Who brought them up? Hurry up. Otherwise, I shall kick them off the ship directly, the bald man bellowed and his voice traveled across the spaceship. Just then, the cabin's door suddenly opened and there was a figure that moved out slowly. It was a young man in a white robe who was carrying a saber. He had long brown hair, sleepy eyes, slender body, and a cold manner. He looked dignified and dauntless. The young man in white robe walked before the bald man and looked down in his eyes. "I brought the two of them up. Do you have an opinion?" The young man in the white robe looked calm, but with every word he uttered, his aura grew stronger. When he finished his sentence, his aura was at a terrifying level which suppressed the bald man. The bald man's face was distorted. He opened his mouth but he couldn't say a word. "Brother Duan." The lady in red pulled the young man in white robe's sleeve and his aura slowed down slightly. "Humph." The young man in white robe humped. Then he looked at the lady in red and the youth and said, "Let's go into the cabin." The lady in red nodded and then they returned into the cabin with the youth. On the deck, a discussion was stirred. "The one earlier is one of the universe god in the third heaven in our troop, right? The lady called him Brother Duan means that his surname is Duan. I wonder what his name is." "Just now, that person, I know him. He's called Duan Lingfeng." Duan Lingfeng. Everyone immediately looked over. The universe god who spat the name Duan Lingfeng slowly started with his story. "Mr. Duan Lingfeng is a universe god in the third heaven, but he just underwent his god's test in the third heaven not long ago. I heard that the movement was not small when he underwent his god's test. There were even experts who saw him undergo his god's test with their own eyes and said that the god's test that he went through was a mind test." Mind test? Everyone was astonished. Even Jian Wushuang was stunned when he heard the word mind test. In the eternal chaotic world, not everyone was qualified to undergo the scariest mind test among the three kinds of God's test. Under normal circumstances, Mr. Duan Lingfeng passed through a mind test. His power definitely would be extremely strong. Unfortunately, he just passed the test not long ago. His divine power has just started to transform to be like a universe god in the third heaven. Hence, I'm afraid he isn't that strong yet either, the universe god continued. "Is that so? That's such a pity." Everyone continued to chat for a while until the deck finally quieted down again. When Jian Wushuang heard the people discuss him around him, he remembered the name Duan Lingfeng. The spaceship was moving in ancient star sea at a speed that wasn't too fast nor too slow. 3 years flew past. In the 3 years, Jian Wushuang's troop was rather calm. There wasn't any danger but merely 2 interruptions by some exotic beasts. On the deck. Wow. Wow. There were swift and fierce sword lights. Very soon, the training ended. Brother Wushuang, what do you think about my swordsmanship? In 3 years' time, the strong, honest youth had grown up quite a bit and he was smiling right before Jian Wushuang. Not too shabby. If your foundation of swordsmanship were to be improved, that'd be great, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. In the 3 years, he had got along with the rest of the troop quite well, especially the youth before him, Luo Hai. At the beginning, Luo Hai was practicing swordsmanship alone on the deck while Jian Wushuang watched by the side. But when Luo Hai finished practicing, he commented casually. Luo Hai was extremely delighted with his advice. Ever since, Luo Hai had always looked to him for pointers. Luo Hai, your brother Duan is a universe god in the 3rd heaven. You have been by his side all the time. Why didn't you practice with a saber, only a sword? Jian Wushuang asked. Ever since I was born, my sister and I are always with brother Duan. But brother Duan never taught me how to use a saber and I don't like sabers. I prefer swords. I must become a swordsman that travel the universe in the future, just like my father, Luo Hai said. Oh, your father uses swords too? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows as he smiled. Just then, shriek. There was a sharp shrill. On the spaceship, those who were originally chatting casually or cultivating were suddenly shaken. Their gazes were cast to the source of the shrill. They saw a sea of purple torrents surging towards the spaceship at an unusually swift speed. There were sharp shrills among the purple surging torrent. That is, it's a purple marten. So many purple martens. Quick, turn the direction of the spaceship. Raging voices were heard across the spaceship. Purple martens were one of the scariest pack exotic beasts in ancient Star Sea. Purple martens had always been hostile to human cultivators. They killed each and every human cultivator without mercy every time they saw one. Then, there was a pack of purple martens before them. No way, it's too late. The one who controlled the spaceship was the leader of the troop. The elderly man in a green robe, his face grew grave. He wanted to change the direction of the spaceship as fast as possible, but he still couldn't change it in time. Chapter 1345, A Fierce Battle Full with Swords and Blood. Chapter 1345, A Fierce Battle Full with Swords and Blood. Booming. The purple flood immediately submerged the spaceship, making resounding noises. Numerous purple martens were hitting the barrier of the spaceship. The barrier almost was shaking and almost crashed. Damn it. Yushan shouted, all the universe gods of the 2nd heaven should take actions to find the leader of those purple martens and kill it. Then he rushed out of the barrier. Many universe gods of the 2nd heaven didn't hesitate and followed him immediately. Luo Yu, Luo Hai. Go into the cabin. After telling them to hide from danger, Duan Lingfeng got into the battle. Luo Yu and Luo Hai entered into the cabin for shelter. Bang! A fierce battle began out of the spaceship. 3 universe gods in the 3rd heaven and almost 20 universe gods in the 2nd heaven fought together violently against the purple martens. The heavens roared. But soon, bang! Flashes of purple light burst out, breaking the 3 heads of the universe gods in the 3rd heaven apart. What? Damn it! And those fighters soon found 5 much larger purple martens rising from the purple flood. Those purple martens each had 3 golden lines on their backs. 5 3-lined purple martens? Yushan was shocked. The more powerful the purple martens were, the more lines they had on their backs. 1-lined purple martens were as powerful as universe gods in the 1st heaven. 2-lined purple martens were as powerful as universe gods in the 2nd heaven. 3-lined purple martens were as powerful as universe gods in the 3rd heaven. 5 3-lined purple martens were able to contain 5 universe gods in the 3rd heaven. Apart from that, there were 10 2-lined purple martens and numerous 3-lined purple martens. Boom! Those purple martens popped up. 20 universe gods were far less powerful than much a powerful group of purple martins. After just a moment, the barrier of the spaceship crashed. And all universe gods in the first heaven were confronted with the rising threat. Watch out! Come on! In the sounds of screaming and shouting, all universe gods in the first heaven, including Jian Wushuang, carried their weapons and started to fight against the purple martins. Jian Wushuang, with his eyes full of anger, beat a purple martin with his blood mountain sword. The purple martin had intended to kill Jian Wushuang, but as Jian Wushuang waved his sword toward it, it soon lost consciousness. It was torn apart. But Jian Wushuang didn't stop. He waved his sword toward other purple martins. Another 2 purple martins died. Jian Wushuang killed 3 purple martins altogether. But it didn't have much of an effect on the large group of purple martins. At this time, bang! A roar came from the spaceship cabin. Almost 10 purple martins rushed toward it. Other universe gods didn't pay much attention to it. But Duan Lingfeng felt alarmed. Oh no! His face distorted, and he rushed to the cabin like crazy. But he couldn't arrive in time. He saw that Luo Yu and Luo Hai were scared. As many as 10 purple martins rushed to Luo Yu and Luo Hai. No universe gods could help them. At this moment, Jian Wushuang waved his sword to the spaceship, swiftly like autumn wind and leaving no trace. Fizz, 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 fizz. All purple martins around Luo Yu and Luo Hai stopped rushing and fell down. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang flew to Luo Hai and Luo Yu. Brother Wushuang! Luo Hai got excited when he saw Jian Wushuang. Stay with me, don't move around, okay? Jian Wushuang told them. They nodded vehemently. Duan Lingfeng rushed to the spaceship and finally felt relieved after he saw Luo Yu and Luo Hai were safe. Then he turned around and looked at 5 large 3-lined purple martins. He felt furious. Luo Yu and Luo Hai almost died because of these monsters. Duan Lingfeng clenched his hands and felt a strong desire to kill those 3-lined purple martins. Go to hell! A flash of blood-red light burst out from Duan Lingfeng. His figure appeared in front of a 3-lined purple martin. Then he waved his sword. Bang! A blood-red sword light flashed. Silently. And suddenly, the boundless battlefield went silent, without any sound. Is that it? Yu Shan and other universe gods turned around and looked at Duan Lingfeng. What? Jian Wushuang was also attracted to the sword light. That sword light turned everything into silence. Yu Shan and other universe gods' jaws dropped. Jian Wushuang was also shocked. Everything in the heavens came to a standstill. Swoosh! The blood-red light stabbed into the 3-lined purple martin. The 3-lined purple martin, which was as powerful as universe gods in the 3rd heaven, could hardly resist and died under the attack of Duan Lingfeng. And Duan Lingfeng strode forward to the 2nd 3-lined purple martin. Bang! Another flash of blood-red sword light appeared. And it was still silent. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Just like this, once Duan Lingfeng strode and waved his sword, he could kill a 3-lined purple martin. Soon he had killed all the 3-lined purple martins. 5 waves of his sword, 5 3-lined purple martins killed. All the human cultivators couldn't believe that. Those 2-lined purple martins and 3-lined purple martins roared crazily. They felt scared that their 5 leaders were all killed. They disappeared immediately from the huge purple flood. Chapter 1346, The Real Genius. Chapter 1346, The Real Genius. The purple martins fled and the crisis was over. On the spaceship, everyone was still in a shock and had yet to come back to reality. They were all astonished by Duan Lingfeng's 5 incredible strokes. The 5 strokes were too terrifying. Jian Wushuang, you have come across a real genius, King of Venomous Worms said in Jian Wushuang's head. A real genius? Duan Lingfeng? Jian Wushuang stunned. It's him, King of Venomous Worms sounded rather serious. If I didn't sense it wrongly, Dean Lingfeng should be quite badly injured. To be more accurate, he was poisoned, and that caused him to be unable to give full play to his power. Otherwise, he could have killed the 5 3-marked purple martens long ago. Badly injured? Jian Wushuang was shocked. He was badly injured, power severely hindered, but he still could kill 5 3-marked purple marten in an instant. Don't find it strange. Duan Lingfeng is really impressive. If he wasn't badly injured, if he didn't just pass through God's test and his divine power wasn't just starting to transform, forget about the 5 3-marked purple marten. Even in the entire eternal chaotic world, he could definitely be unrivaled among the countless peak universe gods in the third heaven. He has such ability, King of Venomous Worms said. In the eternal chaotic world, among countless peak universe god in the third heaven, he could be unrivaled? Jian Wushuang was astonished. He is a real genius. Even in the vast expanse of the eternal chaotic world, he's the top super genius. He is totally different from those geniuses you met in Snow Dojo, Snow Kingdom. Those geniuses would only be qualified to carry his shoes for him, King of Venomous Worms said. Of course, although Duan Lingfeng is the real genius, you're not that much weaker than him. Jian Wushuang heard that, and there was a surge of emotions. King of Venomous Worms was experienced and knowledgeable. For him to give such high compliments, Duan Lingfeng must be really impressive. Before everyone's shocked gaze, Duan Lingfeng retrieved his saber and came to the spaceship. He came before Luo Yu and Luo Hai. Yu Hai, are you okay? Duan Lingfeng asked. We're okay. Luo Yu shook her head. It's Brother Wushuang that saved us, Luo Hai immediately added. Duan Lingfeng looked at Jian Wushuang. Thank you, Duan Lingfeng expressed his gratitude. Don't mention it. What's more, if it wasn't for you killing the 5 3-marked purple martens, I'm afraid no one in our troop could have escaped. It should be us who thank you, Jian Wushuang smiled. Duan Lingfeng nodded faintly, but didn't say anything else. The universe gods on the spaceship finally came back to reality and slowly recovered. Their troop lost quite a few universe gods in the fight earlier, and there were many that were injured. Besides, the surrounding setup on the spaceship was broken. Yu Shan had to repair it. When the recovery work was almost done, the spaceship continued its journey. In the corner of the spaceship, Jian Wushuang lay alone. Swoosh! A wine pot was thrown directly at Jian Wushuang and he caught it with ease. Let's have a drink together. Duan Lingfeng took a seat. He had a wine pot in his hand too. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows, but he didn't refuse. Luckily you saved Yu and Hai in time today. Otherwise, I would be too embarrassed to see Brother Luo Yan, Duan Lingfeng said coldly. Brother Luo Yan? Jian Wushuang was confused. Brother Luo Yan is their father. He's my best friend. Duan Lingfeng said, not long ago when I was undergoing my god's test in the third heaven, my enemies suddenly came to look for me. Brother Luo Yan fought alone against 3 universe god in the third heaven, fully aware that he wasn't their match, in order to stop them from bothering me. In the end, I passed my god's test, but Brother Luo Yan died in my enemy's hand. It can be said that I owe Brother Luo Yan my life. Jian Wushuang heard and secretly admired Brother Luo Yan in the story. He knew that he wasn't the enemy's match, but in order to not let them bother his best friend's god test, he blocked the 3 universe gods in the third heaven forcefully until he sacrificed himself. The friendship ran really deep. Before Brother Luo Yan died, he told me to send Yu and Hai back to his hometown, Imperial World. I must send them back to his hometown regardless of my life. But now, Duan Lingfeng shook his head as he blamed himself. If it wasn't because of Jian Wushuang, Luo Yu and Luo Hai might really be dead. If I'm not mistaken, you should be quite heavily injured, huh? Jian Wushuang asked. You can tell. Duan Lingfeng looked surprised. You must be quite badly injured and it is affecting your fighting power. Otherwise, you could have killed the few 3-marked purple martens right at the beginning, Jian Wushuang said. True, Duan Lingfeng nodded. I am poisoned by my enemy and I can't use too much of my power. I killed the few 3-marked purple martens at the risk of poison spreading to my heart. Is that so? Jian Wushuang was shocked and said, What kind of poison is that? I might have a way to cure it for you. Speaking of antidotes, Jian Wushuang was an expert on them. It's okay, Duan Lingfeng shook his head, I have kept the poison under control. Give me some time. In less than 100 years, I will be able to clear the poison. If so, why didn't you clear the poison first before you come to Ancient Star Sea? Jian Wushuang was confused. Ancient Star Sea, just how dangerous was it? He had yet to recover to his peak, and he had brought 2 universe masters to Ancient Star Sea. Isn't this too risky? I have no choice because my enemy is coming after me. I have to leave immediately, Duan Lingfeng said. Oh, I see, Jian Wushuang understood. Jian Wushuang. Duan Lingfeng suddenly looked over as he also knew Jian Wushuang's name. I saw you killing 10 over purple martens with 1 stroke. You are quite strong, Duan Lingfeng said. I'm not up to your par, Jian Wushuang smiled. If I'm not mistaken, the reason why you want to go through the Ancient Star Sea is to head to the legendary 10 cultivation sanctuaries, right? Duan Lingfeng asked. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. The 10 cultivation sanctuaries. There was a spark that appeared in Duan Lingfeng's eyes. The legend says that there are countless geniuses and experts. It's a pity that I still have tasks on hand. Otherwise, I'd go there too. I'd like to see what sort of monsters there are in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Chapter 1347. A Formidable Enemy. Chapter 1347. A Formidable Enemy. Duan Lingfeng and Jian Wushuang talked for a long time in the spaceship. Jian Wushuang felt happy to be exchanging ideas with Duan Lingfeng, a real genius. And it was also a pleasure for Duan Lingfeng to make friends with Jian Wushuang. The spaceship kept traveling through the Ancient Star Sea. The Ancient Star Sea was full of dangers, in which there were beasts much more scary and violent than the Purple Martens Jian Wushuang's team had met. But the team was powerful enough, especially with the top talent, Duan Lingfeng, to tackle any problems or dangers. The 40 years passed quickly. Jian Wushuang's team finally arrived at the verge of the Ancient Star Sea. We are already at the verge of the Ancient Star Sea. I guess we can leave here within 1 month. Finally. I have been feeling nervous along the way. We are all terrified. We couldn't survive without Duan Lingfeng being here. Everyone was talking happily. After all, they thought they could got free of the anxiety and fear that they had been feeling all day and all night in the past 40 years. However, they didn't realize that at the peak of the mountain that they were heading for, a black-robed man felt them coming and opened his eyes. The black-robed man said, I feel a calling, a very strong calling. Who is giving me that calling? The black-robed man stood up and looked around. He looked in the direction from which the spaceship came and went into ecstasy. It's my prey. A very delicious prey for which I have a crazily strong desire. I could have a feast today. Then the black-robed man transformed into a spirit and flew toward the spaceship. Come on, my prey. I am coming. And passengers in the spaceship had no idea of what was happening. Jian Wushuang was sitting on the deck of the spaceship with a flagon beside him, watching a young talent practicing swordsmanship. The young talent was Luo Hai, who had grown up. Within 40 years, the gifted Luo Hai had improved his swordsmanship a lot by studying in the Ancient Star Sea and also with the help of elixirs given to him by Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng. Shoo! Luo Hai waved his sword, producing a dazzling light. Soon Luo Hai stopped his exercises and the light disappeared. Brother Wushuang, what do you think of the swordsmanship I have created? Luo Hai asked Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang said, not bad. As you have already created your own sword principle, you can develop your swordsmanship based on it so that you can unleash the potential power of your sword principle. Thank you, Brother Wushuang. Can I follow you as your disciple? I have really improved a lot with your help. My disciple. Luo Yu and Duan Lingfeng also looked at them. Jian Wushuang shook his head, smiling, I am not qualified actually. Luo Hai was a little disappointed, but he didn't continue the conversation. Bang! Suddenly, A very strong consciousness attack hit everyone in the spaceship. Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng frowned. Other universe gods also felt alarmed and looked in the direction of the attack. Shoo! A black-robed man appeared at the front of the deck and intercepted the spaceship. Everyone in the crowd was now looking at the man through the barrier. Only a man. He comes here alone intending to intercept us? He seems to be powerful. Everyone in the crowd was discussing it. The team leader in the spaceship, Yushan, asked politely, "Is there anything that we could help you with?" Yushan felt that the man was at least at the level of universe gods in the third heaven. Ha! The black-robed man didn't pay much attention to Yushan but stared at only one man on the spaceship while wearing a cunning and vicious smile. He was looking at Jian Wushuang. "You are my prey now." The black-robed man murmured, licking his lips. He was extremely excited. His face turned red and his eyes were full of craziness. "What wonderful prey you are! That blood of his smells so good." The black-robed man's voice was heard by members on the spaceship. They frowned, feeling the coming danger. Jian Wushuang was also alarmed. He had already felt the craziness in the man's eyes. Obviously, the black-robed man was coming for him. King of Venomous Worms said to Jian Wushuang, "You are in danger now. I think that man is from the Sky-Devouring clan." Sky-Devouring clan. Jian Wushuang was reminded immediately of two Sky-Devouring clan descendants he met in his hometown of the Green Fire World. They Patriarch of Empyrean Glory and his son Emperor Yen. He had heard from King of Venomous Worms about the Sky-Devouring clan. Chapter 1348, Duan Lingfeng's Choice. Chapter 1348, Duan Lingfeng's Choice. Sky-Devouring Clan. It's one of the top clans in Eternal Chaotic World. They feed on exotic beasts' blood. They are overbearing with almost no natural enemy. Plus, a pure Sky-Devouring clan is born with natural senses towards certain blood lineages. I reckon the Sky Devourer before you could sense your ancient god blood flowing in you. That's why he rushed over. The royal ancient god blood is extremely attractive for the Sky-Devouring clan. Hence, he wants to kill you now and consume your ancient god blood. King of Venomous Worms said in a serious voice. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and he saw madness and greed in the eyes of the man in black robe. On the spaceship, Yushan saw that the man in the black robe didn't respond for so long. He bellowed, "Mister, if you do not move aside, please do not blame me for not being polite." "Impolite? I'd like to see how impolite you can be." The man in the black robe laughed maliciously. At the same time, there was a terrifying power erupting from his body. The strong aura exceeded the scope of an ordinary universe god in the third heaven. It was almost at the level of a peak universe god in the third heaven. Peak universe god in the third heaven. Every cultivator on the spaceship gasped simultaneously. Jian Wushuang's face grew grave. In the ranking of universe gods, every level makes a huge difference. An ordinary universe god in the third heaven and a peak universe god in the third heaven was two entirely different concepts. Plus, the man in the black robe before him was a member of the Sky-Devouring clan. With the power of his blood lineage, he was definitely a scary one among peak universe god in the third heaven. Jian Wushuang reckoned that the man in black robe was much scarier compared to the universe god in the third heaven from Snow Dojo, Chen Feng. Although there was some difference, it wouldn't be too far off. Such an expert, Jian Wushuang wouldn't be able to deal with in his current state. Even though they were in this troop, even though there was an expert like Duan Lingfeng, they might not be able to win against an expert at such level. Human cultivator. The man in the black robe smiled maliciously and his voice spread. "I am only interested in one of you. Hand over that person to me and the rest of you can leave." He only wants one person? He's not interested in us. Would one of us be his enemy? He chased us all the way here? It stirred a commotion on the spaceship. Yushan took a deep breath and asked, "I wonder who you are looking for?" "It's him," the man in black robe pointed from afar. Everyone looked at the direction the man in black robe was pointing at and saw Jian Wushuang. It's Jian Wushuang. It's him. The universe god in the third heaven came for him. The universe gods looked at Jian Wushuang under a different light. Brother Wushuang, Luo Hai and Luo Yu looked worried. As the leader of the troop, Yushan looked at Jian Wushuang for a very long time until he said in a cold voice, Jian Wushuang, I'm sorry, please leave the spaceship. Everyone's gaze turned cold. At such a crucial moment, everyone seemed to have made a decision. Give him Jian Wushuang. Fickleness of human nature, Jian Wushuang saw and laughed at himself but wasn't surprised. In the eternal chaotic world, it was extremely cruel and cold. Previously, when Jian Wushuang revealed his decent fighting power, the troop of universe gods accepted him delightedly. However, when a strong enemy came and made clear that he wanted Jian Wushuang, the universe gods gave him up without hesitation in order to protect themselves. After all, they didn't build any relationship with Jian Wushuang. They were merely a troop that was temporarily formed in order to pass through ancient Star Sea. It was only normal that the universe gods wasn't willing to risk their lives to save Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang didn't bother to blame them. Then, Jian Wushuang slowly walked towards the exit of the spaceship. Just as he walked, he quickly communicated with the King of Venomous Worms. King of Venomous Worms, you told me previously that there were many kinds in Sky-Devouring clan. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory who I met back then was a Sky-Devourer bat. Chapter 1147, Going All Out. Chapter 1147, Going All Out. Let's go all out. Tianhuan King and Golden Rock King said while nodding solemnly. I'll go first, and you two will make sneak attacks against him once you get a chance. With these words, Tianyin King rushed rapidly forward like a fleeting phantom. As he moved forward, he somehow split into 10 Tianyin Kings. Jian Wushuang immediately opened his scarlet eye and used his strength of soul to detect these 10 Tianyin Kings. The next moment, his countenance became grim, as he exclaimed in his heart, What? They're real bodies instead of illusionary ones. His scarlet eye secret skill enabled him to tell illusionary things from real ones, but he failed to find any defect in the 10 Tianyin Kings. That meant all of them were the Universe Master's real bodies. Each of the 10 Tianyin Kings held a long black whip in hand, which looked like a big python. They surrounded Jian Wushuang and then attacked him simultaneously. Swoosh! 10 black long whips were flung toward him at the same time. They looked like 10 big flying pythons, rushing toward him and planning to wrap themselves around him. Soon enough, they besieged Jian Wushuang. He saw them blot out the sky and cover up the earth in an instant, leaving no gap for him to escape. What an amazing technique! Jian Wushuang exclaimed in his heart. Tianyin King might not be able to compete with Golden Rock King in terms of battle strength, but he was clearly much faster and nimbler than the latter. He was particularly adept at trapping his opponent. Even a Universe Master could hardly escape from his grasp. However, the fact that a Universe Master was unable to get rid of those whips did not necessarily mean that Jian Wushuang could not do that. Go, Blaze Quicksand! Jian Wushuang growled and released his Blaze Quicksand. In a split second, a violent storm of sand and green flames arose and expanded, tearing the black big pythons into pieces. After smashing the big pythons to pieces, the Blaze Quicksand rushed toward the 10 Tianyin Kings. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted. The next moment, one of the 10 Tianyin Kings gave a grunt and ran toward Golden Rock King and Tianhuan King in panic, as the other 9 kings suddenly dispersed. Fuck, what treasure does he have? Tianyin King blurted out while keeping a straight face and staring at the Blaze Quicksand around Jian Wushuang. It must be a treasure which can summon some kind of realm, Golden Rock King said with a frown. Tianhuan King, I'll use my blood-deadly longbow to distract him and you can use your killing move to finish him off once you get a chance. Got it, Tianhuan King nodded solemnly and said. Golden Rock King snorted with contempt and then summoned a fierce-looking red longbow. It stood as tall as an adult and looked very aggressive. What's that? Jian Wushuang's face slightly changed, as the red longbow's aura seemed quite dangerous. Jian Wushuang, I think that longbow is a blood-deadly longbow. It's a chaos magic treasure, and its fame has spread far and wide in the eternal chaotic world. The most powerful people in that world, who recruited experts for their armies, would only equip their most elite soldiers with such longbows. It's a powerful weapon. Be careful, said Gu King. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang stepped up his vigilance, his pupils constricted. In the meantime, Golden Rock King put one foot back on the void and then shifted his weight to this back leg. He channeled nearly all his powers into his arms but was only able to slightly pull back the string of the bow. What? Gu King could not help scoffing at the Universe Master, while thinking, is that all he can do? He only managed to slightly draw the string back. It seems that his powers aren't enough to fully activate this blood-deadly longbow. The next moment, Golden Rock King released the string. Shoo! A flowing red light instantly pierced through the void and flew toward Jian Wushuang. Even though Golden Rock King was unable to bring the longbow's powers into full play, the flowing red light it shot out still looked extremely aggressive and ferocious. More importantly, it was amazingly fast. It seemed to have approached Jian Wushuang in a split second. Chapter 1349, Amazing Duan Lingfeng. Chapter 1349, Amazing Duan Lingfeng. The vicious man in a black robe had obviously underestimated how powerful Duan Lingfeng was. Shoo! Duan Lingfeng waved his sword, cutting half of the palm of the black-robed man. Then Duan Lingfeng continued his attack, intending to cut the man's head. Damn it! The black-robed man quickly jumped away and avoided another attack after his palm was cut. He looked at his wounded palm and frowned. And Duan Lingfeng held his sword and stood in the heavens. Idiot! Duan Lingfeng, you would die now if I recovered my full strength. The black-robed man felt nervous when hearing those words. Jian Wushuang was also shocked by Duan Lingfeng's power. Jian Wushuang had heard about Duan Lingfeng's incomparable power. If Duan Lingfeng could recover his full strength and totally unleash his soul power, he would be invincible among the universe gods in the third heaven. Now he had just 60% of his power. But despite that, Duan Ling cut half of a palm of one man from Sky-Devouring Clan. The black-robed man said, So, before I eat Jian Wushuang, I had better clear all of the obstacles in the way. He smirked and immediately recovered his palm, leaving no scars at all. Then after a second of simmering, his power skyrocketed and his figure enlarged and covered Duan Lingfeng. But Duan Lingfeng was indifferent. He strode forward. The seventh skill. Duan Lingfeng waved his sword again. The sword attack was still done briefly and silently. Bang! But Duan Lingfeng was hit by the black-robed man's power and he had to jump backwards. The black-robed man laughed. Your skills are just mediocre. Nothing to me. After being attacked, the robed man kept focus and exercised his real power. His 100% power. But Duan Lingfeng was still calm. His eyes sent out an appalling light. Come on! Duan Lingfeng shouted. The eighth skill. Duan Lingfeng waved his sword again. Another blood sword light. The heavens darkened. Two opponents rushed toward each other. Bang! The heavens blared again. Their figures collided violently with each other and they both jumped backward. Duan Lingfeng now felt a strong sense of excitement. A feeling of aggressiveness rose within his body. Not bad. The black-robed man said, You are better than other universe gods in the third heaven that I have met. So, take my next attack. The ninth skill. Duan Lingfeng shouted resoundingly. Then, within a second, Duan Lingfeng waved his sword again and accumulated an unimaginable power. Another one? The black-robed man was shocked and he didn't underestimate Duan Lingfeng anymore. He felt that although Duan Lingfeng's breath hadn't recovered, he still had incomparable power. And the last two attacks were more powerful than the previous ones. Shoo! Another blood light. The whole heaven was silent. A dead silence. The black-robed man experienced a rising force within his body. His power and figure exploded, and he turned back into his original shape. His original shape looked like a giant gorilla, scary and savage. After turning into his frightful original shape, he rushed to Duan Lingfeng with all of his power. Bang! However, the black-robed man was hit back by the collision with Duan Lingfeng. Now the black-robed man was at a disadvantageous position. But Duan Lingfeng was still standing stably in his original place. Wow! Looking at Duan Lingfeng, Jian Wushuang was impressed and even shocked. King of Venomous Worms said to Jian Wushuang, "I have told you that Duan Lingfeng's power is at a further level than you might imagine." What level? Jian Wushuang didn't understand. But he knew that he himself was still far from that level. Bang! The black-robed man got furious and impatient. His original shape continued to grow, while his power and breath kept rising. He generated an appalling evil spirit, creating an evil storm in the heavens. Jian Wushuang felt more pressure from the black-robed man. The black-robed man is by no means an ordinary sky-devouring clan descendant. His secret skills are also powerful. King of Venomous Worms said, "Although Duan Lingfeng was powerful, he hasn't recovered to his full strength, and the black-robed man now has an edge over him in terms of soul power. Duan Lingfeng is also enduring the poison in his body. Jian Wushuang, you should give him a hand or he may be defeated." After hearing that, Jian Wushuang asked King of Venomous Worms, "The sky-devouring clan descendants aren't good at consciousness attacks, right?" "Yes. They accumulated power by eating exotic beasts instead of cultivating. As such, they are not so good at consciousness attacks. However, the black-robed man is a peak universe god of the third heaven. Ordinary consciousness attacks are nothing to him. Jian Wushuang, though your soul power is more powerful than your peers at the same level, I don't think it's realistic for you to attack the black-robed man with a soul attack." Chapter 1350, Exterminate. Chapter 1350, Exterminate. Unrealistic. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. "I never expected to kill him with my soul attack. I only wanted to catch him by surprise in order to create an opportunity for Duan Lingfeng. This is unrealistic? Create an opportunity?" King of Venomous King was shocked. If it was merely to create an opportunity, it might work. If so, I shall give it a try. I happen to have yet to put the secret skill of Tian Yuan to play. Today, let's try the power of the secret skill on this Sky Devourer. However, with my current soul power, I can only pull off the secret skill of Tian Yuan once. If I were to create an opportunity for Duan Lingfeng with the secret skill, I could only run for my life after he was killed or severely injured. In other words, I only have one chance. Jian Wushuang held his fists tight as his gaze grew solemn. Then Jian Wushuang sent a message to Duan Lingfeng. "Duan Lingfeng, I will create an opportunity for you. It will be rather short and it will pass almost instantly. You must grab this opportunity." Jian Wushuang sent a short message. Duan Lingfeng received the message as he was fighting against the man in the black robe. He looked at Jian Wushuang in shock. Jian Wushuang was just a universe god in the first heaven after all. He was able to create an opportunity for him. Jian Wushuang didn't explain further but started taking various measures. Virum. A terrifying crimson flame erupted from Jian Wushuang. The crimson flame formed a huge fire sea and filled the entire universe. Jian Wushuang was right at the core of the fire sea, as though he was the king in the fire sea. The secret skill of Scarlet Kingdom was performed straight away. At the same time, the power of stars within his body was triggered entirely. If Scarlet Kingdom could merely increase the speed of Jian Wushuang's attack, then the secret skill of Star. As the scariest and the most fundamental secret skill for Lineage of Star, not only can the secret skill of Stars increase Jian Wushuang's power by tenfold in a short period of time, it could even enhance his soul attack by tenfold. Vroom vroom vroom. Jian Wushuang's soul power was burning insanely with an enormous amount of soul power surging. His eyes turned cold as he stared at the two of them who were fighting before him. The very next moment, his body suddenly charged forward. The man in the black robe revealed his terrifying fighting power, and he was fighting against Duan Lingfeng face-to-face ferociously. During the fight, the man in the black robe had been keeping an eye on Jian Wushuang at the same time. After all, his target, his prey, was Jian Wushuang. He naturally couldn't let Jian Wushuang run away. When Jian Wushuang charged forward, the man in the black robe noticed at the very moment. Asking for it. The man in the black robe immediately turned and charged towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked cold, but there was an absolute calmness in his faint gold eyes. Blood Mountain Sword was in his hand when the man in the black robe turned to charge at him. Jian Wushuang wielded the sword subconsciously. He looked like he wielded the sword and he really did swing out sword light. But in actual fact, it was just a cover-up to mislead his opponent. The true move lay in the soul power that Jian Wushuang transferred, with which he performed the secret skill of Tian Yuan. The first level of secret skill of Tian Yuan, inextinguishable light. Swoosh! A bunch of light that was transformed solely by soul power and was sent out in silence. Under the cover of the sword light, no one noticed. Everyone on the scene, regardless if it was the man in the black robe, Duan Lingfeng, or even the universe gods on the spaceship afar, no one noticed the existence of the light bunch. The light bunch was hidden among the sword light and charged towards the body of the man in the black robe. The man in the black robe glared at Jian Wushuang with madness. When he saw the sword light that Jian Wushuang sent out, he looked at it in disdain. It is futile. Along with the loud thud and soaring fierceness, the man in the black robe laughed maliciously. He held his fist and smashed it over ferociously. Hong! The sword light that Jian Wushuang swung out shattered while part of the impact of the terrifying power from the punch landed on Jian Wushuang's body. Poof! Jian Wushuang immediately spat a mouthful of blood. His face grew pale in that instant. However, it was merely part of the power. So, it was sufficient to kill him. Luckily, I am only affected by parts of the power. If I were to take a punch directly, even though my divine body was strong, I wouldn't be able to take it. I would definitely die. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold as he glared at the man in black robe. If I am severely injured, don't you think you'll be okay? Jian Wushuang saw the inextinguishable light immersing in the man in the black robe's body under the concealment of his sword light. The man in black robe didn't notice the soul attack previously. When the inextinguishable light entered his body, he finally reacted. This is? The man in black robe contracted his pupils. After the light bunch entered his body, it suddenly formed a huge soul thorn and attacked his consciousness. Although he was a peak universe god in third heaven, the strength of consciousness was merely at the level of a universe god in the third heaven. Plus, he wasn't under any prevention. The soul attack with the secret skill of stars and Tian Yuan that Jian Wushuang performed gave him a direct hit. Suddenly, ah! The man in the black robe groaned in pain and he sounded hysterical. His eyes were bloodshot red as he hugged his head and shook insanely. Looking at the sight, Jian Wushuang quickly shouted, "Duan Lingfeng right now. Do it now." Behind the man in the black robe, Duan Lingfeng acted swiftly when he noticed the transformation. He seized the opportunity and took action. The 10th. Another crimson blade light descended. In the dark universe, there was only the crimson blade light that lit up the world. Everyone was uncontrollably attracted to the crimson blade light. The 10th. When Duan Lingfeng was fighting with the man in the black robe earlier, he had only played till the 9th. Then, the 10th was Duan Lingfeng's real strongest stroke. That stroke shocked Jian Wushuang entirely. The blade light appeared behind the man in the black robe like lightning. The man in the black robe noticed the light and he forcefully resisted the pain his consciousness was feeling and wanted to block the attack. However, under the sharp pain in his consciousness, it was extremely tough for him to manipulate his divine power. He could barely lift his head, but in the end, the blade light swept past his palm brutally and over his neck. His head flew off just like that. Chapter 1351 Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng left. Chapter 1351 Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng left. His head was cut off by Jian Wushuang. The black-robed man stopped breathing. He died with his eyes still wide open and a shocked look. When he died, he was still in shock from the fact that he was killed by a universe god in the first heaven, and one who he would have been his prey. But now the black-robed man was dead. Boom! He fell downward. Finally, Jian Wushuang was relieved. Now I don't have to escape anymore, Jian Wushuang thought, thanks to the secret skill of Tian Yuan I got from the Tian Yuan Mystery Land. This secret skill is much more powerful than I had imagined. Jian Wushuang was excited after practicing the secret skill for the first time. But King of Venomous Worms said, "The deeper cause is that the man from the Sky-Devouring clan has a consciousness at the same level as a universe god in the third heaven. You already have the same soul power as a universe god in the third heaven. So combing the secret skill of Tian Yuan and the secret skills of Star Palace, you can pose a threat to a high-level universe god in the third heaven." Also, he was not very well prepared. Jian Wushuang smiled. Jian Wushuang had risked injuries and exercised the secret skill of Tian Yuan. And he had succeeded. Jian Wushuang. Duan Lingfeng came to him and said, "Are you okay?" "Fine." Jian Wushuang smiled, "Thank you for your help just now." He was grateful. Duan Lingfeng had indeed played an important role in the battle with the black-robed man. Without Duan Lingfeng distracting the black-robed man, Jian Wushuang could exercise any skill to kill him. "Did you use a consciousness attack just now?" Duan Lingfeng asked Jian Wushuang. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. "You killed a universe god in the third heaven with only the consciousness attack." "No, I combined other skills. And by the way, the black-robed man didn't have a strong consciousness." Jian Wushuang answered. Duan Lingfeng felt that Jian Wushuang was avoiding telling the whole truth. He looked at him but didn't mention anything else. At that time, the spaceship was moving toward Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng. "Master Duan and Brother Jian." Yu Shan smiled to them. Yu Shan witnessed the whole battle. He knew how powerful Duan Lingfeng was. So he had to show his respect by calling Duan Lingfeng Master. Jian Wushuang didn't show his full power, but he cooperated well with Duan Lingfeng and created good opportunities for killing the black-robed man. Duan Ling showed his hatred towards those who chose to hide in the spaceship. Yu Shan and other universe gods in the spaceship felt embarrassed. Jian Wushuang said, "Forgive them. They have no choice as they are not powerful enough." Yu Shan said, "Yes, Master. No one could contain that black-robed man except you. So we had to." Jian Wushuang interrupted him at that moment and spoke to Duan Lingfeng. "I also have a spaceship not far from here. How about leaving the team and going together with me?" "Okay." Duan Lingfeng didn't hesitate and he asked Luo Yu and Luo Hai to come with him. Luo Yu and Luo Hai followed Duan Lingfeng with hesitation. Other universe gods in the spaceship were surprised, but they didn't stop Jian Wushuang. If they had been at the center of the ancient Star Sea, they would beg Duan Lingfeng to stay because they needed his help to fight against danger. But now, they didn't have to do so as they would leave the ancient Star Sea within 1 month. Jian Wushuang waved his hands and summoned his spaceship. He got on board the spaceship with Duan Lingfeng, Luo Yu and Luo Hai. Then they left. "Humph, can't we survive without them?" Someone from Yu Shan's team said. "How arrogant they are. They believed that we would beg? Ridiculous." The universe gods had a heated discussion after Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng left. They didn't worry about their safety without them. "Let's go by ourselves," Yu Shan said, leading the team to depart again. But at that moment, boom! With a resounding noise, a herd of exotic beasts flooded onto Yu Shan's spaceship. They were giant, colorful bats with sharp claws. They flew very fast, soon surrounding the whole spaceship. Damn it! Everyone was scared. And in an instant, the barrier of the spaceship was broken. A ferocious slaughter began. "Oh no! Oh my God! Damn it! The universe god screamed, asking Duan Lingfeng to give them a hand. However, Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng had already gone far away. Chapter 1352 Arrival. Chapter 1352 Arrival. 1 month later. Finally! On the spaceship, Jian Wushuang was rather delighted. In the ancient Star Sea, there was danger everywhere. Even if it was just him in the ancient Star Sea, he would be on high alert at all times. Now that the spaceship had left the ancient Star Sea region entirely, Jian Wushuang was finally relaxed. Jian Wushuang, you want to head to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries and I have to send you and Hai to their hometown. We shall part ways in the world before us, Duan Lingfeng said. All right, Jian Wushuang nodded. After the journey in ancient Star Sea, especially when they joined forces to kill the expert from Sky Devour clan, Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng built a relationship. Jina Wushuang was more than happy to make friends with a real expert like Duan Lingfeng who valued friendship. However, they each had their own agenda. Hence, they naturally had to part ways. Soon, the spaceship arrived in the world. Duan Lingfeng, I hope we cross path again in the future, Jian Wushuang bid farewell to the other three. Wait, till I send you and Hai back to their hometown, I will wander around the 10 cultivation sanctuaries too. By then, we might meet again. Duan Lingfeng said, I'd like it if when I see you, you're already a universe god in the third heaven. Ha, I will try, Jian Wushuang laughed. Brother Wushuang, goodbye. Luo Yu and Luo Hai bid farewell to Jian Wushuang and left. In the boundless darkness of the void, a spaceship slowly traveled. Jian Wushuang, as you pass through ancient Star Sea, the following route is comparatively safe. However, the journey is long. King of Venomous Worm's voice was heard. Your current location to the nearest sanctuaries would require 1,000 years under the condition that there is no interruption. Besides, during the last part of the route, there is the boundless void that I was telling you about. The boundless void is where massacres happen widely. Many experts and geniuses who want to head to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries lost their lives when they were passing through the boundless void. Hence, you have to be extremely careful when you're there. I understand, Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Let's go. Jian Wushuang continued his journey. In the following time, Jian Wushuang passed as he hurried through his journey and cultivated. During the process, luckily King of Venomous Worms always took the form of a human and kept Jian Wushuang company. That's why Jian Wushuang didn't find it too boring. On the way, he didn't come across too much of an incident. In the journey of his passing by all the kingdoms and worlds, it was rather smooth until he reached the boundless void. The boundless void was right next to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Due to its geological location, the massacre was insane and the robbery was even more rampant. Jian Wushuang knew about how dangerous the boundless void was. Hence, when he entered the range of boundless void, he had been rather careful. Even so, when he passed through the boundless void, he came across 2 huge dangers, and both threatened his life. During the first time, he happened to run into a final battle between 2 gangs of robbers. One party was defeated while the other winning party started a massacre. All cultivators in the region were affected and the same went for Jian Wushuang. He was surrounded by over 100 universe gods. He could only pull the secret skill of dragon blood and made a narrow escape. As for the second time, he ran into a madman who was cultivating in the boundless void. The madman was a universe god in the third heaven. Not only was he strong, but he also loved killing. He wandered around the boundless void and killed whatever cultivator that he met, regardless if the person offended him or not. Jian Wushuang met the madman and the madman took action immediately. Jian Wushuang couldn't resist at all and it was even difficult for him to run away. In the end, Jian Wushuang performed the secret skill of Tian Yuan under duress. It led to severe injuries of the madman by catching him by surprise. It also shocked the madman. The madman was worried that Jian Wushuang could still perform another similar consciousness attack. Hence, he didn't continue to pester Jian Wushuang. That's why Jian Wushuang got his life back. Besides those 2 times, the other encounters were well within Jian Wushuang's means. Just when Jian Wushuang passed through the boundless void, it was already 1,100 years later. 1,100 years was nothing to a universe god. However, it was actually lengthy for Jian Wushuang. It was the first time he had hurried a journey for such a long time. In the dark void. Jian Wushuang, it's one of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, East Royal Sanctuary. King of Venomous Worms said. We're finally here? Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy and he looked at a huge land at the end of his sight. It was also a huge land floating in the dark void. But as one of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, the East Royal Sanctuary was bigger than the ordinary world by a few folds. Let alone the experts on the land. The 10 cultivation sanctuaries were the experts' paradise. Very soon, Jian Wushuang arrived in the East Royal Sanctuary. The moment Jian Wushuang laid his feet on the East Royal Sanctuary, he could feel that the surroundings were filled with the soul power of the universe. As it was a cultivation sanctuary, it naturally possessed cultivation conditions to which no other places could compare. In the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, regardless of if it was for cultivation or comprehension, the speed would definitely be a few times faster. No wonder so many geniuses and experts would take the risk to come to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. No other places could compare favorably with the cultivation conditions here, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Jian Wushuang, don't be too happy just yet. You're at the East Royal Sanctuary, which is one of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries but not Purple Moon sanctuaries where the lineage of Star is at. King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. During the lengthy period of time where he was rushing his journey, he heard from King of Venomous Worms about the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. He also knew that the lineage of Star was within the Purple Moon Sanctuary. It's the overlord and power in Purple Moon Sanctuary. And the East Royal Sanctuary was quite far from the Purple Moon Sanctuary. To go to the Purple Moon Sanctuary from the East Royal Sanctuary, there are 2 ways. One is to take a wormhole that connects the 2 sanctuaries. However, that level of wormhole costs a huge price even to take just one ride. It isn't something you can afford. As for another way, it'd really need you to rush the journey on your own. Forget about the even longer journey from Snow Dojo to the East Royal Sanctuary. The danger during this journey is even bigger. King of Venomous Worms said. Chapter 1353, Sending a Message. Chapter 1353, Sending a Message. It takes longer and brings more risks? Jian Wushuang frowned. It seems like it will be impossible for me to go to the Purple Moon Sanctuary. King of Venomous Worms smiled. Don't be upset. You are unable to go alone there, but you could turn to talents from the lineage of Star for help and ask them to take you there. Ask them for help. Exactly. Don't forget that you are not only a disciple of the lineage of Star but also enjoy a high status as you belong to Star Palace. Send them a message and they will take you there. King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang nodded. Now that we are in the East Royal Sanctuary, it will be much easier for us to go to the Purple Moon Sanctuary. As far as I know, there is a famous community called Vientiane Tower. King of Venomous Worms said. He continued, any resources are available in the Vientiane Tower, and its power stretches to any corner of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. There are all kinds of businesses in the tower. Intelligence vendors, traders of treasures and even killers for hire. As long as you pay, you can do anything there. So it's easy for you to ask about sending a message. Jian Wushuang nodded and asked, do they dare to kill talents? Of course, talents there fear nothing. Once someone paid a high price for the service of killing a top genius from one of the top 3 tribes in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, which was even more powerful than the lineage of Star. So talents from Vientiane Tower accepted the request and killed that top genius. The tribe leader was furious but he couldn't do anything. Jian Wushuang felt amazed by the power of the Vientiane Tower. The Vientiane Tower was far above the standard fare. So, let's go to the Vientiane Tower. He entered a nearby town. There was a Vientiane Tower there. Is that the Vientiane Tower? In front of Jian Wushuang was a towering purple castle decorated with a pattern of a large, exotic beast, with its mouth wide open, as if it wanted to swallow everything in the heavens. Jian Wushuang entered into the Vientiane Tower. There were many cultivators there, each of whom was followed by a waiter in a black robe. What a place full of talents! Jian Wushuang was excited. Those talents, as well as their waiters, were all universe gods. Even the waiters are universe gods. Universe gods are really ordinary. Jian Wushuang murmured. After all, the 10 cultivation sanctuaries is the center of the eternal chaotic world, and the heaven of countless cultivators. A super powerful universe god in an ordinary universe is just another nobody here. After pausing for a while, King of Venomous Worms continued, many talents are far more powerful than you and they are able to kill you easily. Don't bring trouble to yourself here. Jian Wushuang nodded. At that moment, a deacon in a black robe came to Jian Wushuang. She was a beautiful lady who said smilingly, "How can I help you? I want to send a message." To whom? The lady asked. Purple Moon Sanctuary of the Lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang said. Huh? Cross sanctuaries? Okay, follow me. The lady took Jian Wushuang into a secret room. Sir, please write the message into the token and we will send it out. 2 million chaotic crystals. So expensive, Jian Wushuang thought. In the eternal chaotic world, an ordinary universe god in the first heaven was around 50,000 chaotic crystals. The price of a message almost equaled that of a peak universe god in the second heaven. But Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate to pay. He had accumulated many chaotic crystals along the way in the past 1,000 years. But after he paid for the message, he now had only a few left. Within 3 days, we will inform you of the response from the other side. The lady said. Thank you. Jian Wushuang said before going to wait patiently in the secret room. The Vientiane Tower was indeed efficient. 1 day later, the message was sent to a top talent from the lineage of Star. Now in the Purple Moon Sanctuary. At the center of a star river, which was long and wide, full of stars, was located the lineage of Star. An elderly in a white robe entered into a huge palace made of special crystals. Master. The elderly bowed to a man in a crystal bed. What's the matter? The man asked, sitting still. The elderly said, there is a message from the Vientiane Tower. In the message, a universe god said he belonged to the Star Palace of the lineage of Star and now he is in the East Royal Sanctuary. He asked us to bring him here. Chapter 1354, Fairies Meeting. Chapter 1354, Fairies Meeting. Disciple from Star Palace. The long-haired middle-aged man who was like a statue finally opened his eyes. There was a flash of purple light in his eyes, just like a purple gemstone. There are only a few disciples from Star Palace in the lineage of Star. Since when do we have another one? The long-haired middle-aged man spoke with a low voice. He said that he passed through the test passed down from Star Foggy Sea in his hometown. He has yet to become the disciple of Star Palace, the elderly in white robe said. Star Foggy Sea? The long-haired middle-aged man creased his eyebrows. Would that be the one that the palace master left behind? Then, the long-haired middle-aged man replied to his message and asked. Soon there was an outcome. I asked the palace master. He did leave it in Star Foggy Sea and he felt it was not long ago that there was someone who passed the test. It should be this universe god. Oh yeah, what's the young man's name? Which level is he in? The long-haired middle-aged man asked. His name is Jian Wushuang. He is a universe god in the first heaven now and the message he sent showed that he was on the other side of ancient Star Sea. He came from a place called Snow Kingdom. He just arrived at the East Royal Sanctuary, the elderly in white robe replied. The other side of ancient Star Sea? That would require him to pass through 2 dangerous places, ancient Star Sea and the boundless void. Who is just a universe god in the first heaven could pass through them? Not bad. He lives up to his reputation as a genius who passed through the test that the palace master set up. The long-haired middle-aged man smiled faintly and immediately gave a command. Tell Vientiane Tower to send him a reply that we of the lineage of Star are going to send an expert to receive and lead him immediately. We should arrive within 10 years' time and tell him to wait right there. Yes, the elderly in the white robe responded. He then turned around and left. The long-haired middle-aged man muttered to himself, the elderlies in the lineage of Star have work on hand. Who should I send to bring the young man over? Oh yeah. The long-haired middle-aged man exclaimed and sent a message out. Soon enough, a handsome man in a loose black robe appeared in the cave dwelling. Yuan, are you looking for me? The handsome man looked calm. Even though the long-haired middle-aged man was a highly positioned person in Lineage of Star, second to the founder of Lineage of Star, which was the palace master, the handsome man could call him by his name directly. The long-haired middle-aged man smiled and said, I have something for you to handle. What is it? The handsome man looked rather cold. Head over to East Royal Sanctuary. There's young man from Lineage of Star. He is also a disciple from Star Palace. He just got there from his hometown after going through some difficulties. He just sent a message to request us to send an expert to bring him. The long-haired middle-aged man said. That's simple? The handsome man creased his eyebrows. For such a simple task, you could have sent any deacon elderly to get it done. Although that's true, our deacon elderly have tasks on hand and they couldn't free themselves from them. On top of that, the young man passed through the test that Palace Master set up, then became a disciple from Star Palace. He was not ordinary. I want you to see him and instantly determine his power. Besides, most importantly, the middle-aged man paused and looked at the handsome man. All these years, you have been wandering at that place and you finally came back. You should be relaxing, don't stress yourself out. Fine, I'll go. The handsome man didn't say much but left right after he agreed. The middle-aged man noticed and let out a sigh. East Royal Sanctuary, in Vientiane Tower. Jian Wushuang had been waiting for 2 days and the Vientiane Tower's attendant, the beautiful lady, came in. Mister, the message that you sent earlier, there's a reply, the beautiful lady smiled. What did they say? Jian Wushuang asked. The Lineage of Star replied that they already sent an expert over. He should be here within 10 years. They told you to wait here for the time being, the beautiful lady smiled and said. That's great. Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy. As your matter has been taken care of, go ahead and do as you please, the beautiful lady said and left. Jian Wushuang left the Vientiane Tower soon and found a place to stay temporarily. Jian Wushuang, in another 10 years, you will enter Lineage of Star officially. When you arrive at Lineage of Star, your talent could be put to full play, King of Venomous Worms said. 10 years, Jian Wushuang clasped his hands together and he was looking forward. 8 years passed by very quickly. But in the 9th year, have you heard? The fairies' meeting that happens once every 10,000 years in this Blood Jade land just started. I heard about it long ago. It's one of the highest standard meeting of Blood Jade land. I heard that many top geniuses participate. For instance, universe gods who are famous from Purple Heart Mansion are all taking part in it. TSK Disket. The fairies' meeting is a great opportunity to rise to the top. It's a pity that I'm too weak. Otherwise, I'd like to give it a try too. In the hotel, many cultivators were gathered there, but they were all talking about the fairies' meeting. In one of the corners in the hotel, Jian Wushuang was drinking quietly while he listened to their discussion. Fairies' meeting? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. The fairies' meeting should be something similar to the Firmament Territory feast that he came across when he stepped foot in Green Fire World. It was something for all parties to select geniuses. To those geniuses, it was really a place for newcomers to come to prominence. It was a great opportunity to rise to the top. However, the fairies' meeting was obviously much grander in scale. Jian Wushuang found out from King of Venomous Worms that the entire East Royal Sanctuary was extremely huge, bigger than any kingdom. East Royal Sanctuary was segregated into 9 pieces of land. In every land, there was the existence of various mansions. It was a structure on the surface, but there were various powers between every mansion, which was fairly complicated. For instance, he was currently in Purple Heart Mansion on the Blood Jade Land in East Royal Sanctuary. In the Blood Jade Land, besides Purple Heart Mansion, there were 187 other mansions. Every mansion had countless cultivators, which meant that naturally there would be countless geniuses. Jian Wushuang, the fairies' meeting sounds great. Do you want to give it a try? King of Venomous Worms casually said. I am already a disciple under lineage of Star. It's not necessary, Jian Wushuang smiled. If he didn't become a disciple under lineage of Star, it would really be a good choice to join the fairies' meeting for him to come to prominence after he arrived at East Royal Sanctuary. However, just then it was really unnecessary. Regardless, head over and take a look. You just got to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, you should see more of the geniuses here. It'd be beneficial for you too, King of Venomous Worms said. Chapter 1355, 2 Wushuangs. Chapter 1355, 2 Wushuangs. Jian Wushuang thought for a while and followed King of Venomous Worms' advice. After all, it was good to learn more. Then he set out to the selection contest of the fairies' meeting. The preliminary selection contest was held in each town of the Blood Jade Land. Universe gods or above could attend, but only those who passed the preliminary selection contest could enter into the final contest of the fairies' meeting. When Jian Wushuang arrived, he was shocked. The boundless battlefield was full of tens of thousands of people. However, only 1% of them, or 100,000 of them, had come here for the selection contest. They were universe gods from 3 different heavens. Jian Wushuang soon understood how the selection contest worked. 2 parts, exploring the 9 Boundaries Tower and the inadvertent Dreamland. The former one was a test of skills, while the latter was of consciousness. Anyone who passed these 2 tests had access to the fairies' meeting. The 9 Boundaries Tower is quite famous in the East Royal Sanctuary. It is a good opportunity to know how much you have improved your swordsmanship. You could have a try. King of Venomous Worms said. But I don't intend to attend the contest, Jian Wushuang said. But you can still go to the preliminary test without attending the fairies' meeting. King of Venomous Worms said. Can I? Of course. So Jian Wushuang signed up for the preliminary test. He waited with the others on the battlefield. As he waited, half of a month passed. How low the efficiency is, Jian Wushuang complained. It is because more than 100,000 universe gods are attending the selection, which is also why the selection contest is held 10 years ahead of the fairies contest. King of Venomous Worms explained. Don't worry. The one who will take you to the lineage of Star hasn't come. You can wait patiently. So Jian Wushuang continued waiting. Almost 1 day passed. Next, Cheng Wushuang. The announcement of the host sparked a heated discussion in the battlefield. Cheng Wushuang, the top genius of the Lionheart town. He is also joining the preliminary selection contest? But I have heard that he is already the disciple of a tribe? Passing the selection contest is a piece of cake to him. The discussion continued. All eyes were on one person. He wore a white robe and held a folding fan. He looked refined with a charming smile. He was the well-known top genius in the Lionheart town. Cheng Wushuang walked to the 9 Boundaries Tower slowly. Jian Wushuang was also watching. His name is quite similar to yours, huh? King of Venomous Worms said amusedly. But Jian Wushuang didn't care. After all, it was common for people to share the same name as others in the vast eternal chaotic world. How many levels could he achieve? Jian Wushuang wondered. After a while the result was announced. Cheng Wushuang, the 11th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower, the 4th levels of the inadvertent Dreamland. The spectators were excited. He passed. The criteria is 11th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower and the 4th levels of the inadvertent Dreamland. And he passed more than that. He is the first one in the Lionheart town to pass the preliminary contest. Everyone showed their admiration. From the past month, he was the first one to have passed the contest. With all eyes on him, the refined Qing Weshuang walked down from the tower. Next, Jian Wushuang. After the announcement, the battlefield turned silent. Even Qing Wushuang paused mid-step. Jian Wushuang? Cheng Wushuang was interested. Another discussion was sparked. Interesting. Jian Wushuang after Cheng Wushuang. Two Wushuangs in the Lionheart town. And they go the contest one after the other? What a coincidence. Everyone was interested. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate to move forward. All were looking at him. As Jian Wushuang was entering into the Lionheart town, Cheng Wushuang asked him indifferently, "You are Jian Wushuang?" Jian Wushuang paused, looked at Cheng Wushuang and nodded. "You'd better change your name. Not everyone deserves this unique name." Jian Wushuang sneered, "My name was given to me by my parents and I cannot change it. By the way, how would you know whether or not I deserve it?" Then, Jian Wushuang continued to move forward and went into the Nine Boundaries Tower. Cheng Wushuang didn't leave. He waited on the battlefield. Chapter 1356, Challenge. Chapter 1356, Challenge. Nine Boundaries Tower, first floor. Jian Wushuang looked at his opponent, a war puppet that was holding a saber. At the same time, Jian Wushuang could feel his divine power being restrained. In the Nine Boundaries Tower, he could only rely on the unique skill that he created and a killing technique to win victory. He couldn't take any other measure. To wander the dark void for 1,100 years. I have been studying my sword principle during those times. Now, I can finally test and see how much have I improved. Let's get started. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy and he suddenly charged forward. The war puppet before him took a huge stride forward too. It wielded its saber and let out a comparable divine power to Jian Wushuang's. Advanced rank 1 unique skill. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows, then he swung his sword and collapsed the war puppet with one stroke. Then, Jian Wushuang appeared on the second level. Nine Boundaries Tower had a total of 17 floors. As long as he passed through the first 10 floors, it was considered a pass. Nine Boundaries Tower changes according to the level of the cultivator. Jian Wushuang was just a universe god in the first heaven. That's why the war puppet from the first floor only performed an advanced rank 1 unique skill. However, when he arrived on the second floor, the war puppet used a peak rank 1 unique skill. But it didn't affect Jian Wushuang at all. Jian Wushuang passed through floor by floor rather easily. Soon, Jian Wushuang passed through the 10th floor, which meant he had passed through the preliminary stage. On the 11th floor, it was still the same war puppet, but its sword technique had leveled up to be an advanced rank 2 unique skill. The Wushuang earlier passed through the 11th floor. He is also a universe god in the first heaven. In other words, he at least created an advanced rank 2 unique skill. Not too shabby, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Among universe god in the first heaven from Snow Kingdom, those who had created an advanced rank 2 unique skill were only Long Hao from Snow Dojo and Lu Qing from Universe God Palace. The two of them were the top geniuses acknowledged in Snow Dojo and Universe God Palace. In East Royal Sanctuary, the top genius in an ordinary town was not weaker than Long Hao nor Lu Qing. He might even be stronger. Wow. A cold sword shadow swept past but didn't leave any traces behind in the void. Jian Wushuang broke down the war puppet on the 11th floor directly. On the 12th floor, the war puppet still carried out an advanced rank 2 unique skill, but it was considered the stronger kind. When one reaches the 12th floor, he has to create a peak rank 2 unique skill. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and there was another flash of sword light. The brutal sword light was unbelievably fast. It hit the war puppet directly. He passed through the 12th floor. On the 13th floor, the war puppet was already performing a peak rank 2 unique skill. However, Jian Wushuang only fought against it for a short while before he felled it again. On the 14th floor. Wow. The billowing saber light continuously slashed towards Jian Wushuang, and he felt a tremendous increase of pressure. The 14th floor is the real barrier to testify to my improvement within the last 1,000 years. Jian Wushuang held his fists as murderous intention filled his eyes. The very next moment, Jian Wushuang erupted his swordsmanship. Dragon roar! Roar! A terrifying, low bellow swept out along with the soaring sword intention. Jian Wushuang put his sword principles that he created all these years to play entirely. The fight was rather ferocious. After a fierce battle, the war puppet on the 14th floor was defeated by Jian Wushuang. Phew! Jian Wushuang let out a breath of relief and came to the 5th floor of the 9 Boundaries Tower. I already gave my all to go through the 14th floor. I performed 3 peak rank 2 unique skills that I created. The 15th floor was stronger than the 14th floor. If I want to pass through it, I have to at least create a rank 2 strongest unique skill. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Rank 2 strongest unique skill. As it was a strongest unique skill, it would be very difficult to create. Back then, Jian Wushuang created a rank 1 strongest unique skill, Eternal Light. It was created via an enormous amount of accumulation plus a bit of luck. As he wandered for the past 1,000 years, his swordsmanship did improve greatly. He even created 3 different peak rank 2 unique skills. However, he had yet to create a rank 2 strongest unique skill. He didn't pass through the 15th floor in the end. After going through 9 Boundaries Tower, Jian Wushuang immediately entered Inadvertent Dreamland. Inadvertent Dreamland focused on testing one's consciousness. There was a total of 7 floors. He only had to pass through 3 floors to pass the preliminary stage. Stepping foot in the 1st floor of Inadvertent Dreamland, Jian Wushuang wasn't affected at all. It was followed by the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th. Jian Wushuang passed through the 4 floors of Dreamland rather leisurely. He didn't feel pressured at all. My consciousness strength has reached the level of a universe god in the 3rd heaven. I'm definitely considered a monster among universe gods in the 1st heaven, and my consciousness has already transformed into a soul power that has become more firm and tenacious. The test of Inadvertent Dreamland would barely cause any harm to me. Jian Wushuang shook his head in silence. After going through the first 4 levels, he wasn't affected at all. Even the following 5th floor, 6th floor, and even 7th floor wouldn't have too huge of an effect. However, even though he was confident to pass through the 7th floor, Jian Wushuang gave up the following tests after he passed through the 5th floor easily. After all, his target was originally just 9 Boundaries Tower. It was unnecessary to put up too impressive of a show. The reason why he passed through the 5th floor was that he thought Qing Wushuang was an eyesore, so he intentionally passed an extra floor than him. Otherwise, according to Jian Wushuang's character, he would only pass through the 3rd floor, which was sufficient to pass the preliminary threshold. After going through 9 Boundaries Tower and Inadvertent Dreamland, Jian Wushuang returned to the training field. The people under the training field looked at him subconsciously, and Qing Wushuang squinted his eyes as he watched him. On the top of the training field, the universe god in the 3rd heaven who was the host of the preliminary stage received the outcome of Jian Wushuang going through 9 Boundaries Tower and Inadvertent Dreamland revealed a shocking expression. The universe god in the 3rd heaven then announced the result. Jian Wushuang passed through 14 floors in 9 Boundaries Tower and 5 floors in Inadvertent Dreamland. He passed the preliminary stage. When the universe god in the 3rd heaven announced the result, his voice became rather heated. After the result was announced, the entire training field was in silence. There was shock in everyone's eyes. How is this possible? The scholarly-bearing youth, Qing Wushuang, looked at Jian Wushuang in awe. There was a surge of emotions in him. He only passed through the 11th floor in 9 Boundaries Tower, and he was considered amazing. However, the other Wushuang went all the way to the 14th floor. It was another 3 floors more than he did. What's going on? Chapter 1357. Every sect was excited about Jian Wushuang. Chapter 1357. Every sect was excited about Jian Wushuang. An unusual talent. Jian Wushuang is an unusual talent in the Purple Heart Mansion, in the Blood Jade Land, and even in the whole East Royal Sanctuary. Cheng Wushuang exclaimed. And I said he didn't deserve his name. Cheng Wushuang felt regretful and terrified. He knew that talents like Jian Wushuang were qualified enough to join a powerful tribe or sect and be a core figure, and could even win the fairies contest. He feared that Jian Wushuang was angry with him and would bring him trouble. Is he angry? Maybe I could apologize by changing my name. Cheng Wushuang thought. But actually, Jian Wushuang didn't pay any attention to him. After he passed the preliminary contest, he left. But everyone got excited and admired him a lot. Go! Tell our leader that there is a real top genius in the Lionheart town. He reached the 14th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower, which has only 17 levels. As far as we know, only 2 talents have reached the 14th level. And Jian Wushuang is the 3rd one. Tell our sect members to come and invite Jian Wushuang to join us. Or he will join other sections. Intelligence talents from different groups shared information with each other about Jian Wushuang. After only half of a day, many talents from different sects came to Lionheart Town to see Jian Wushuang. But Jian Wushuang now stayed alone in the yard that he lived in. Jian Wushuang was unsatisfied with his performance. Instead, he knew that he was now meeting with a bottleneck of his swordsmanship, and until a new opportunity, he couldn't improve. He wanted to make a breakthrough. But it was now extremely difficult to make a breakthrough. As he was upset, a figure appeared at the top of Jian Wushuang's yard. A breath disseminated around with a power appalling to any universe gods. What is that? Jian Wushuang felt the power and raised his head. He was surprised when he saw a black figure rising in the heaven. He felt that the one in front of him was a peak talent that transcended universe gods, and was at the same level as Master of Silence Gloriette from the Snow Dojo. Jian Wushuang had heard about that level of power. It's a real god. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists excitedly. The real god was at a level beyond universe gods. Real gods, though not as powerful as an almighty, were definitely experts in the eternal chaotic world. Real gods were definitely the privileged and respectable ones in any god kingdom or any sect in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. And now Jian Wushuang was meeting a real god. Are you Jian Wushuang? This black-robed elderly smiled kindly to Jian Wushuang. Yes. And may I ask your name? Jian Wushuang asked. He had thought the elderly was from the lineage of Star. But he quickly disregarded the possibility. Because he had the identity token for disciples of the Star Palace, he would feel a signal if this real god was from the lineage of Star. But Jian Wushuang didn't feel the signal. I am Wu Chen from Tianluo Star Palace. The black-robed elderly introduced himself. Tianluo Star Palace? Jian Wushuang had never heard of it. Wu Chen knew Jian Wushuang was puzzled, and he said, To be honest, I come to invite you to join our Tianluo Star Palace. I know that you have reached the 14th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower. If you join us, our sect will definitely provide you with the best training. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He knew now that Wu Chen came here to invite him. Tianluo Star Palace is known to be the top sect in the Purple Heart Mansion. With our abundant resources, you could unleash your potential there. Wu Chen said. Jian Wushuang hesitated. Before he replied, another talent came, saying with hostility, Wu Chen, do you feel ashamed when you are lying? The newcomer was a lady in a purple robe. She also had breath as powerful as Wu Chen. Also a real god. Another one? Jian Wushuang felt embarrassed. He just intended to test his swordsmanship, and he wanted to keep a low profile without showing his full strength. He didn't expect there to still be talents coming for him. Kong Jing. Wu Chen looked worried. Kong Jing said indifferently, You may lie to him, but you cannot cheat me. Is Tianluo Star Palace ranked first? What about Holy Church of Golden Wing? When she turned to Jian Wushuang, Kong Jing's tone softened. I am Kong Jing from the Holy Church of Golden Wing. If you join us, I will arrange a top real god for you, with the best swordsmanship. Kong Jing smiled to Jian Wushuang. But neither Kong Jing nor Wu Chen or Jian Wushuang knew that not far away, there was another talent who was looking at them. This disciple of the lineage of Star is quite popular. Chapter 1358 Lei Chao. Chapter 1358, Lei Chao. Holy Church of Golden Wing? Jian Wushuang looked at the two real gods before him. Regardless of whether it's Tian Luo Star Palace or Holy Church of Golden Wing, I have never heard of either. I reckon they are some powerful forces in East Royal Sanctuary. It's nice that they have a few real gods to personally attend their forces. In East Royal Sanctuary, there are countless forces of that size. How could it be compared favorably with the lineage of Star? Jian Wushuang, you don't have to bother with them, King of Venomous Worms said. I know, Jian Wushuang simply replied. However, he actually didn't dare to ignore the two real gods. My friend, Wu Chen spoke, I know that with your talent you could totally showcase yourself in the fairies' meeting and some bigger forces might take a liking to you. However, don't forget that although the bigger forces have more resources, they have more outstanding disciples under them too. After segregation, the resources that you obtain might, in turn, be lesser. However, it's different in Tian Luo Star Palace. For a talent like you would definitely be nurtured and raised with the utmost care in Tian Luo Star Palace. We at the Holy Church of Golden Wing would do the same, the purple-dressed lady, Kong Jing added too. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He replied, I'm sorry. I appreciate your kind offers but, to be frank, I didn't intend to join the fairies' meeting. In other words, I naturally didn't intend to join any other forces or sections. The reason why I joined the preliminary was merely because I wanted to test my sword's principle via the 9 Boundaries Tower. You didn't intend to join any forces or sects? Wu Cheng and Kong Jing both creased their eyebrows. That's right, Jian Wushuang nodded. To be honest, I have already had a master since long ago. Is that so? Wu Chen and Kong Jing exchanged a glance. They both felt disappointed. A genius who had passed through 9 Boundaries Tower till the 14th floor like Jian Wushuang was definitely someone that both sects would love to have. Hence, at the moment, the two of them had received such news, they rushed over personally. However, they never expect that Jian Wushuang was a master long ago. As he had a master, he naturally couldn't join other sections. Just then, swoosh! A figure appeared out of nowhere above the courtyard. Jian Wushuang, Wu Chen, Kong Jing looked towards the visitor. It was a handsome man in a loose, long robe. The handsome man looked cold as he stood there without giving out much aura. However, his star-like eyes glanced at Wu Chen and Kong Jing. With just that one glance, the two real gods, Wu Chen and Kong Jing, both revealed a face of terror. Their faces grew pale all of a sudden. I am Lei Chao. The handsome man spoke in a cold but soft voice. However, it caused a loud echo in Wu Chen and Kong Jing's head. Lei Chao? Real god Lei Chao from lineage of Star? The expert on the real god list. Wu Chen and Kong Jing were shocked. They had obviously heard Lei Chao's name before and they clearly knew how amazing he was. Greetings, Mr. Lei Chao. Greetings, Mr. The two real gods bowed politely at the handsome man without hesitation. They were all real gods but the two of them revered Lei Chao sincerely. The handsome man Lei Chao merely glanced at them but didn't bother with the two real gods. He turned to look at Jian Wushuang instead. You are Jian Wushuang? Lei Chao looked at Jian Wushuang. Greetings, Mr. Lei Chao. Jian Wushuang also bowed politely but he wasn't worried. He could feel the lineage of Star's token on Lei Chao. I am here to bring you back to the lineage of Star. Be prepared, we shall leave now, Lei Chao said calmly. I don't have to prepare anything. I can leave any time, Jian Wushuang replied. Lei Chao nodded and looked at the two real gods next to him. The two real gods looked terrified and Wu Chen said, Mr. Lei Chao, the two of us didn't know that this young man has a master. Let alone the fact that he was a disciple from the lineage of Star. Hence, we invited him to join us. Please forgive us. I saw everything that happened earlier, Lei Chao said. As the two of you came for him, you definitely know a bit about his ability then. Tell me. This, Wu Qin hesitated for a while before she said, the reason why we found him was that he joined the preliminary for the fairies' meeting. During the preliminary, he passed through 14 levels in 9 Boundaries Tower and 5 levels in Inadvertent Dreamland. Hence, we rushed over to get him. 9 Boundaries Tower? Inadvertent Dreamland? Lei Chao raised his eyebrows. I have heard about the 2 tests. A universe god in the first heaven passing through 14 levels is quite impressive. However, on consciousness, although he was better than similar ranks, he still wouldn't be considered the top. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard that. He wasn't even in the mood to go through the test in Inadvertent Dreamland. If he were to give his all, he might be able to pass through all 7 floors in Inadvertent Dreamland. Jian Wushuang, let's go. Lei Chao didn't say anything more. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate but followed Lei Chao. As for Wu Chen and Kong Jing, they stood there until they saw Lei Chao left entirely. Then, the two of them finally let out a breath of relief. Lei Chao, he is really the top expert on the list. He is also famous in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. I can't believe we could see him in person. Wu Chen clasped his hands together as he spoke passionately. I originally planned to get this genius at all cost but was unaware that Jian Wushuang had joined Lineage of Star long ago. Lineage of Star, TSK, the overlord in Purple Moon Sanctuary, they have countless geniuses. Although Jian Wushuang is amazing, he might not be the top expert in Star Palace, Kong Jing said quietly. Kong Jing, I guess your effort was in vain. Wu Chen looked over. Same for you, isn't it? Kong Jing smirked. He's a disciple from the Lineage of Star. Unless Tian Luo Star Palace is planning to fight for him with the Lineage of Star? Wu Chen shrugged. The two of them didn't chat further but left. In the void, Jian Wushuang moved swiftly behind Lei Chao. Mr. Lei Chao, are we going back to Lineage of Star directly? Jian Wushuang asked. I have something to take care of in East Royal Sanctuary. We will return right after. Don't worry, it won't take too long, Lei Chao said. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows but he remained unconcerned. Then, Jian Wushuang followed closely behind Lei Chao. The two of them took the wormhole towards another land in East Royal Sanctuary. In one of the mansions on the land, Lei Chao brought Jian Wushuang along with him and stopped before an ancient clan. Chapter 1359, Thunder Fire Sect. Chapter 1359, Thunder Fire Sect. Now we have arrived at the Thunder Fire Sect. Thunder Fire Sect? Jian Wushuang didn't know even what it was. The elderly god from the Thunder Fire Sect is our friend. He sent a message to us that the Thunder Fire Sect is in danger. Now we are going to help him. Lei Chao said. Got it. Jian Wushuang said. Thunder Fire Sect was only a small sect. It was not easy for such a sect to develop a friendship with the Lineage of Star. Let's go. They went to the gate of Thunder Fire Sect. Who is that? The universe gods in the Thunder Fire Sect felt alarmed by these two visitors. Immediately, more than 10 universe gods surrounded Jian Wushuang and Lei Chao. More specifically, they surrounded Lei Chao. Lei Chao stood there calmly and silently. After a while, an elderly in a purple robe came. I am the master of the Thunder Fire Sect. May I ask what you are coming for? The elderly stared at Lei Chao, knowing that his visitor was powerful. We came at the invitation of the Green Fox. It's his letter. Lei Chao took out a letter. The Green Fox was the elderly god of the Thunder Fire Sect. Talents who will help us. Those universe gods were excited and happy after hearing that. After the sect master read the letter, he was relieved. Come in, please. The sect master welcomed them. So Jian Wushuang and Lei Chao entered the Thunder Fire Sect. As they were walking, the sect master asked Lei Chao, do you know where Green Fox is now? He just told me via letter that he couldn't come back without making his location known. Now his situation is dangerous and there may sometimes be a risk of death. He can't come back to save the sect. And he asked me to help. Lei Chao said. Green Fox is now in danger? The sect master frowned. Thunderfire sect was only a small tribe in which there were only two real gods, the sect master and Green Fox. The death of any real god would be a disaster. Green Fox, in particular, was the backbone of the sect. Lei Chao didn't beat about the bush. He asked, what crisis is the Thunderfire sect facing? The sect master answered directly, we have always been fighting against the White Flame Palace. Our conflicts and hatred are only growing in magnitude. In the past we were neck and neck with each other. We each had two real gods and Green Fox was very powerful, so the White Flame Palace didn't dare make trouble. However, recently they added a new real god and also invited an independent real god to protect them. So they now have 4 real gods, making them much more powerful than us. In the past 100 years, they have been attacking us and grabbing our property. We are surviving thanks to our sect's secret skills, but actually the sect is on shaky ground. I intended to call Green Fox back to save our sect, but I now know that he is in danger. The sect master seemed helpless. Lei Chao said, that's to say, if we can kill 2 real gods in the White Flame Palace, they can't pose a threat to you, right? Yes. The sect master nodded. If we manage to do this, we will not only contain the White Flame Palace, but also recover our lost property. Lei Chao said, okay, that's easy. As you have fought with the White Flame Palace for a long time, you must know how many universe gods they have, right? Of course. The sect master nodded, but he didn't know why Lei Chao had asked that. The real crisis came from 4 real gods. Why did Lei Chao mention universe gods? Jian Wushuang couldn't understand either. Give me a ranking list of all the universe gods from the White Flame Palace. Lei Chao said. No problem. The sect master asked his subordinates to finish the task. After a while, Lei Chao got the list. After looking through the list, Lei Chao said, let's go to the White Flame Palace. The master of the Thunderfire sect didn't understand and he asked, at this very moment, talents from the White Flame Palace are watching us outside our sect. If we go out, they will raid us immediately. How can we take that risk? Lei Chao glanced at the sect master and said indifferently, how can you solve the crisis by staying in the sect? But... Stop talking and lead me there. Lei Chao didn't want to explain further. The sect master chose to trust Lei Chao's decision. He trusted Lei Chao because he felt that Lei Chao was powerful enough to protect the sect. Without enough confidence, Lei Chao would risk death and go to the White Flame Palace. Lei Chao was confident enough. Chapter 1360 Thunder Measure. Chapter 1360 Thunder Measure. Before a lofty mountain near the door of Thunderfire sect. Mister, this is White Flame Palace's campsite near Thunderfire sect. All 4 real gods of White Flame Palace are in there, Thunderfire sect master said. Behind the elderly in the purple robe, there were higher-ups from Thunderfire sect. Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang stood at the front. Lei Chao folded his arms as he overlooked the lofty mountain before him with a cold gaze. When they appeared, the experts in the mountain shook that instant. There were figures of experts that soared up in the sky one after another. Among the crowds of experts from White Flame Place, there were 4 leading figures. From the aura that the 4 figures gave out, they were far beyond the level of a universe god. They were obviously the 4 real gods from White Flame Palace. Old man Zichio, I thought you'd hide for the rest of your life. I never thought that you would ever come to me, a perverse bald man said in disdain as he smiled maliciously. The person who is speaking now is the solo expert that White Flame Palace hired. He is the strongest among the 4 real gods from White Flame Palace. Even if their chief comes, he might not be his match. The elderly with crane hair next to him is the palace master of White Flame Palace. Thunderfire sect master Zichio said with a low voice. Lei Chao nodded faintly. The 4 real gods from White Flame Palace noticed Lei Chao's existence from the opposite. Humph, no wonder he dared to show up. He found help. However, you thought you had found a real god and Thunderfire sect would be fine? The perverse bald man laughed. Although he could tell that it wasn't wise to provoke Lei Chao, he didn't care much because he was confident with his own capability. Mister, what do we do now? Zichio asked. You just watch from here, Lei Chao replied briefly and suddenly moved. Swoosh. When Lei Chao's figure appeared again, he was already before the perverse bald man. His right index finger flashed with light when he pointed. A terrifying, damaging aura suddenly erupted. The damaging aura was fierce and the four real god from White Flame Palace revealed a face of terror. Lei Chao's index finger became bigger in size in the perverse bald man's eyes. He couldn't give any response. Pissed. The light went through in between the perverse bald man's eyebrows. The perverse bald man couldn't even let out a groan before he was killed. The sight shocked everyone at the scene. How is that possible? The experts from White Flame Palace were all dumbfounded. Merely a finger and he killed a real god? Zichio stared. This, Jian Wushuang revealed a face of terror. It was Jian Wushuang's first time to see a real god take action personally, and it was also his first time seeing a real god killed with his own eyes. He was even killed instantly without any space of struggle. He finally understood why the two real gods Wu Chen and Kong Jing in Lionheart Town would revere Lei Chao. They were all real gods, but their difference was vast. Hong. After killing the perverse bald man with one finger, Lei Chao took action like lightning again. Pissed. Pissed. Followed by another two soft thuds, another two figures fell. The four real gods from White Flame Palace, Lei Chao killed 3 of them in an instant. The remaining one was the palace master of White Flame Palace, the only one alive. Of course, the reason why he was alive was that Lei Chao didn't intend to kill him. The palace master of White Flame Palace's face was covered in terror. He stared at Lei Chao and finally uttered a question, Who are you exactly? Lineage of Star, Lei Chao. Lei Chao didn't hide his identity. The palace master of White Flame Palace was suddenly wide open, the expert on the real god list, Lei Chao. How is this possible? How is the Thunderfire sect be related to an expert like you? It's impossible. The palace master of White Flame Palace started bellowing. Palace master of White Flame Palace, Lei Chao's voice was cold. Follow my instruction and I give leave White Flame Palace a way out. The palace master of White Flame Palace immediately calmed down. He knew that it was not the time for sorrow and fear, but most importantly, to focus on keeping White Flame Palace alive. Lei Chao took out the name list that he had obtained from Thunderfire sect. I have a name list here. Whoever gets his name called out, stand out on your own. First one, Luo Su. Lei Chao's cold voice reverberated in the lofty mountain. A large number of experts from White Flame Palace gathered in the mountain. The most outstanding experts were all gathered here. When the universe god in the first heaven named Luo Su heard Lei Chao's voice, although he was terrified, he stood up. Luo Su, it is very simple. I will give you and also everyone in White Flame Palace a chance to live. If you can defeat him. Luo Su pointed Jian Wushuang and said, otherwise, you can only die. White Flame Palace could only be destroyed entirely. Defeat him. The universe god in the first heaven named Luo Su immediately looked towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang already stood out then and he looked rather calm. When Lei Chao asked for a name list of experts from White Flame Palace, he had a faint idea of Lei Chao's plan. Obviously, Lei Chao intended to use the experts from White Flame Palace to determine his ability. After all, although he had passed through the 14th floor in 9 Boundaries Tower and the 5th floor in Inadvertent Dreamland, those were focused on unique skills and consciousness. They had nothing to do with one's real power. Jian Wushuang became a disciple of Star Palace through the test which the founder of the lineage of Star had created. It was different from other disciples from Star Palace. It was only normal that a higher up in the lineage of Star wanted to know his real power. Jian Wushuang, as Lei Chao wanted to determine your level of power. Give your all and don't hide. After all, the lineage of star higher up would allocate resources according to the power and talent that you show. If you were to reveal stronger capabilities, the more benefits you would to receive, King of Venomous Worms said. I understand, Jian Wushuang nodded heavily as his gaze grew sharp. The expert names Luo Su also had determination burning in his eyes. He could tell that Jian Wushuang was like him, a universe god in the first heaven. As they were both universe gods in the first heaven, he had nothing to be afraid of. After all, he was the top universe god in the first heaven in White Flame Palace. He was a real genius. Come on. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. As he stood there, the Blood Mountain sword had already appeared in his hand. Chapter 1361, A Fierce Fight. Chapter 1361, A Fierce Fight. Come on. The universe god called Luo Su started the attack. He was confident, believing that he was as powerful as Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword transformed into a bright flash of light and went through the throat of Luo Su. A horrible soul power exploded from the sword, tearing Luo Su apart. Luo Su's eyes were wide open, but soon became lifeless. Killing with only one sword attack. Everyone from both the Thunderfire sect and the White Flame Palace couldn't believe what they had seen. Luo Su died in the first round of the battle with Jian Wushuang. Lei Chao was still calm and called the next universe god. Next, Su Meng. Su Meng went out and looked at Jian Wushuang aggressively. As the universe god in the second heaven, Su Meng was much powerful than Luo Su. So Su Meng was supposed to defeat Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang waved his sword, which sent out a freezing cold light to surround Su Meng and kill him. Also with one attack. Everyone from both the Thunderfire sect and the White Flame Palace was speechless. Lei Chao felt satisfied and nodded, and he continued to call the next person. After pausing for a while, he pronounced a name. Chen Bin. Other universe gods started a heated discussion. A youth came out from the group of the White Flame Palace. Chen Bin is the top guy amongst the universe gods in the second heaven. It is said that he fought against a universe god in the third heaven and wasn't defeated. What if Chen Bin kills Jian Wushuang? Someone from the Thunderfire sect commented. Impossible. I know Lei Chao. He is at the top of the real god list, and he is able to kill a group of real gods. So he would not even allow a real god to kill that universe god in the first heaven, let alone only a universe god in the second heaven. The master of the Thunderfire sect said. But he was also shocked that Jian Wushuang was going to fight with a universe god in the second heaven. Now the sect master fully understood why Lei Chao was confident enough to go to the White Flame Palace. By himself, Lei Chao could ruin the whole White Flame Palace. In the heaven, Chen Bin came to Jian Wushuang with a long purple sword, sending out a scary power. Jian Wushuang could feel that the pressure brought by Chen Bin was much stronger than the previous two talents. Watch out, I am different from them. Chen Bin said coldly. Come on. Jian Wushuang held his Blood Mountain sword tightly. Bang! Chen Bin unleashed his strong power. His breath transformed into a giant purple exotic beast, rising from Chen Bin. Chen Bin hurled out his sword, producing a resounding cracking sound. Bang! 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 Several attacks came at Jian Wushuang and surrounded him. A very fast attack. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He generated his divine power and waved his sword whilst combing it with the ancient god power. Boom! 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 Several resounding booms exploded. Purple thunder. Chen Bin started to generate another skill. A giant shadow of an exotic purple beast appeared behind Chen Bin. The beast opened its giant mouth. Its roar shook the whole heaven and formed a horrible force rushing toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang shivered under the powerful attack and couldn't open his eyes. Shoo! The flash of purple light stabbed into Jian Wushuang's heart. Although Jian Wushuang didn't open his eyes, he managed to defend himself with his soul power against the attack of the purple light. He stepped back further and adjusted his position. I have said that I am different from the precious ones. As Chen Bin spoke, he generated power in the purple sword in his hand. The horrible power gradually dispersed. Jian Wushuang was undergoing high pressure from Qin Bin. Although my soul power is better than Qin Bin's, from which I could defend myself, he has many more powerful unique skills than I have. And immediately, Chen exercised another attack. Boom! Chen Bin's horrible divine power tore a hole in the heavens and the power rushed towards Jian Wushuang. Then, several attacks came suddenly. A purple tornado rose up. Though its power had yet to explode, its formidable strength had already shocked many universe gods in the second heaven. Rank 3 unique skill. He's even using an advanced rank 3 unique skill? Jian Wushuang was amazed. It was so amazing that a universe god in the second heaven could generate an advanced rank 1 unique skill. Jian Wushuang now could only generate a peak rank 2nd unique skill, far behind this top genius from the White Flame Palace. Though I am not as good at unique skills, I can make up for it with secret skills. Jian Wushuang started to generate a golden light, igniting a blood-red fire. The fire spread and formed a vast, blood-red sea. At the same time, Jian Wushuang took out his blaze quicksand gourd, from which floods of sand gushed out and rushed to Chen Bin. Blaze quicksand. Even the used-to-be indifferent Lei Chao was surprised by Jian Wushuang's secret skills. The Dragon Roar. Jian Wushuang generated another secret skill. Boom! With a startling roar, the power of Jian Wushuang's sword skyrocketed. The Dragon Roar, one of the 3 peak rank 2nd secret skills, was the one which had the feature of being able to generate power. Chapter 1362 Revealed. Chapter 1362 Revealed. Bang! A vigorous rumble echoed across the void. After the rumble, there was a figure that retreated rapidly. The figure constantly flipped as it retreated and finally calmed down. So strong! Jian Wushuang wiped off the blood stain at the corner of his lips as he spoke the compliment. He performed a dragon roar with his all, but it was suppressed by Chen Bin directly. He is so much stronger than I in unique skill. I would not be his match if I were to fight head-on. I can only play that trick. Jian Wushuang's face grew solemn as he oppressed the churning energy and blood in his body. The very next moment, he suddenly exploded and the blood mountain sword in his hand suddenly shook vigorously. Blood! The long sword swept out as it revealed its earth-shaking power, and a soaring soul power exploded. Useless! Chen Bin's gaze turned cold as he suddenly turned the purple long spear in his hand and let loose. Rumble. A simple action that caused another explosion of earth-shattering power in an instant. It was an advanced rank 3 unique skill again. When the two collided, poof! Jian Wushuang spat a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale while he retreated. As for Chen Bin, he easily collapsed Jian Wushuang's sword principle, but the fierce soul attack in the sword principle caught him off guard. However, Chen Bin was a genius at the end of the day. He had created an advanced rank 3 unique skill and his consciousness wasn't weak either. He could compare favorably with an advanced universe god in the third heaven. Although he was surprised by the hit of Jian Wushuang's soul attack, it merely turned his face pale for a while before he recovered. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He deserves to be called the top genius in White Flame Palace. Even his consciousness is that fierce. Even if I perform the secret skill of Tian Yuan with my all, I might not be able to kill him. I could only severely damage him at most, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. In the void above, Lei Chao, who was hanging in the air quietly, suddenly contracted his pupils. Just now, that was a consciousness attack. No, it's not consciousness, but... There was a flash in Lei Chao's eyes and he resumed normalcy very quickly. Swoosh! Lei Chao appeared in the middle of the battlefield. He stole a glance at Chen Bin and said, "You saved yourself and also White Flame Palace." Chen Bin was stunned. Lei Chao then looked towards Thunder Fire Sect Master. "The danger of Thunder Fire Sect has been resolved. I shall make a move." Jian Wushuang, let's go. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Without waiting for anyone's response, the two of them made a move immediately. After leaving Thunderfire Sect, Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang moved forward. Soon, Lei Chao stopped on a remote mountain. Jian Wushuang, Lei Chao looked at Jian Wushuang and asked, "Where did you get your blood-killing plate armor?" Jian Wushuang was stunned. He had obtained the blood-killing plate armor long ago, but it was the first time someone had recognized it. However, Jian Wushuang didn't find it strange. After all, a top expert like Lei Chao was definitely knowledgeable and experienced. When he was fighting with Chen Bin, Lei Chao could recognize blood-killing plate armor the moment it revealed its power. Jian Wushuang immediately replied, "I obtained the blood-killing plate armor from a universe master in my hometown." Universe master? Lei Chao creased his eyebrows. Back then, the power that he revealed was merely universe master level. However, it might be because his fighting power was damaged, Jian Wushuang said. His name was Dao Yuanzi. He should be an expert from the eternal chaotic world. I don't know why he came to my hometown and set up the Great Formation. The formation should be called the Life-Devouring Formation. He wanted to refine all the living times in my hometown with it. But I killed him in the end. So all his treasure fell into my hands, including this blood-killing plate armor. Jian Wushuang was telling the truth, and Lei Chao nodded without suspicion. It's great that you got the treasure from killing him. You can continue to use blood-killing plate armor, but remember, don't get involved with Holocaust sect. Otherwise, you are making yourself an enemy with all the cultivators in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries and the eternal chaotic world. Lei Chao exhorted. Jian Wushuang shook when he heard that. He found out from King of Venomous Worms that the Holocaust sect was hated by everyone in eternal chaotic world. But he never thought that the experts in the eternal chaotic world would hate Holocaust sect that much. Anything that was related to the Holocaust sect would cause one to become the other cultivator's enemy. Tisk-tisk, Jian Wushuang pursed his lips and complimented. One more thing, Lei Chao looked at Jian Wushuang. Inverse cultivation, Lei Chao said lightly. The moment Jian Wushuang heard the two words, his face tremendously changed and there was surge of emotions in him. But, you find it strange that I can tell you're an inverse cultivator? Lei Chao said coldly. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded subconsciously. He was really shocked. Because ever since he had started inverse cultivation, including the time he wandered in eternal chaotic world, it was the first time someone pointed out his identity as an inverse cultivator. Of course, in Tianyuan Mystery Land, the expert who gave him the secret skill of Tianyuan would be able to tell his identity as an inverse cultivator. However, the expert didn't reveal himself. Then, Lei Chao talked to him face to face. Of course, Jian Wushuang was surprised. Not just me. In the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, whoever studies souls and knows a bit about souls, such as experts who lit their soul power or prepared to light their soul power, could tell that it was a soul attack when you fought with Chen Bin earlier. Lei Chao said. Jian Wushuang shook. What Lei Chao said revealed that he had studied a little about the soul. You, a universe god in the first heaven, know a soul attack? Plus, your divine power is far beyond a universe god in the first heaven. How could an ordinary cultivator do that? Only an inverse cultivator, which is rare in the eternal chaotic world. An existence which could light up the soul power during a universe master state could do that. Hence, I am sure that you are an inverse cultivator. Lei Chao said faintly. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had been trying very hard to hide his identity as an inverse cultivator. Back then, in Dayu world, because he passed through the inverse cultivation test, he had had no choice but the master of Dayu Palace and Wu Tsang recognized his identity as an inverse cultivator. However, he didn't proactively tell anyone before. However, he never expected that there were so many people who could recognize his identity as an inverse cultivator with the aid of his soul within the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Inverse cultivation is very rare. Especially rare for those who could pass through inverse cultivation test. Almost one in hundreds of millions of years. Lei Chao continued. Chapter 1363, The Galaxy. Chapter 1363, The Galaxy. In the millions of years since our Creator founded the lineage of star, we have embraced numerous genius disciples, but we've never received anyone practicing inverse cultivation. Lei Chao said. So you are the first one. Now you have just passed the first round of the inverse cultivation test. After passing the second and the third, you will definitely make extraordinary achievements. Lei Chao knew about Jian Wushuang's potential. After Jian Wushuang passed the inverse cultivation test, he would become a top almighty in the eternal chaotic world, much more powerful than Lei Chao. Does anyone in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries know that you are practicing for the inverse cultivation test? Lei Chao asked. No. Okay, that's good. Lei Chao smiled, which was a rare occurrence. Keep it a secret from others. Lei Chao said, let's go to the lineage of star and I will report to our master about the inverse cultivation. He will make decisions. Jian Wushuang nodded. So they set out. They headed for the lineage of star as quickly as possible. In order to save time on the journey from the East Royal Sanctuary to the Purple Moon Sanctuary, they were going to use a wormhole. Wormholes were only owned by powerful sects and tribes in the East Royal Sanctuary. Many tribes couldn't even afford it. But it didn't worry Lei Chao. By wormhole they soon arrived at the Purple Moon Sanctuary. The Purple Moon Sanctuary was different from the East Royal Sanctuary. The East Royal Sanctuary owned as many as 6 pieces of land, each of which was home to countless talents. The Purple Moon Sanctuary, however, only had 4 pieces of land. But each land was far vaster than those in the East Royal Sanctuary and the number of talents was higher. Among the 4 pieces of land, one was called the Star Land. The Star Land was home to the lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang was impressed when he heard about the Star Land. Everything in the Star Land was named with Star, which showed the dominating power that the lineage of Star had. And indeed, the dominant group in the Star Land was the lineage of Star. How powerful this lineage is! Jian Wushuang was amazed. After all, the creator of the lineage of Star was at the top amongst the almighty in the eternal chaotic world. The best of the best. Although King Luo Zhen is among the almighties, he is far less powerful than the creator of the lineage of Star. King of Venomous Worms added, moreover, it was King of Venomous Worms alone that united the Star Land. So you can imagine how powerful he is. Jian Wushuang felt stunned. Soon he had arrived at the base of the lineage of Star with Lei Chao. It was a vast galaxy. The galaxy was stunning and filled with numerous shining stars. We are in the base of the lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang was amazed by the glamorous galaxy. How powerful could the lineage of Star be to occupy such a vast galaxy? I heard about this galaxy during the time I followed King Luo Zhen. The creator of the lineage of Star discovered the galaxy when he traveled to the eternal chaotic world and transformed the galaxy and moved it to the Star Land. Now it's said that the secret sect skills of the lineage of Star are combined with the galaxy. King of Venomous Worms said. Wonderful! Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Let's go! Lei Chao said. Jian Wushuang followed Lei Chao and went into the vast galaxy. As Jian Wushuang entered the galaxy, he felt the power explode. He was surprised and he asked Lei Chao, I can feel the unlimited strong divine power here. Can I absorb this power? Lei Chao said, of course. We are now in a divine power sea unique to the galaxy. The divine power will never be depleted here and you could refill your power here anytime. So amazing, Jian Wushuang said. Its power is more than that. Lei Chao pointed in one direction. Jian Wushuang then looked in that direction. In the galaxy, a 3-meter-tall exotic beast near them seemed to be playing. What is that? It is one of the exotic beasts born with power generated by the galaxy. We call them meta-beasts. They are valuable. Lei Chao explained. How valuable are they? As Jian Wushuang asked, a golden flash of light flew to the exotic beast quickly. That light is a cultivator, right? Jian Wushuang asked excitedly. Yes, a disciple from our lineage of star. Lei Chao answered calmly. The exotic beast who was playing saw the golden light and immediately fled rapidly. It couldn't escape from the cultivator with the golden light. As that cultivator caught the beast and the golden light around her dissipated, Jian Wushuang saw clearly that she was a lady in a golden robe. The lady left, satisfied with her prey. A powerful cultivator. I bet this cultivator is far more powerful than Qin Bin who I once fought with. Is she from the Star Palace? Jian Wushuang asked. No, she is just an ordinary disciple from the lineage of Star. Lei Chao answered calmly. Jian Wushuang was shocked. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.